All right, everybody, welcome back to the Lions Pit podcast. I am your host, Nick Gomez. With me today is the one and only, the beautiful Hannah Eden. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. What an epic intro.
Thank you. It was funny. Brad said the same thing. He's like, I don't know if I deserve that intro. I was like,
one and only. That's
the
awesome.
one and only Hannah Eden. Yeah, you're a
That's
big
amazing.
deal.
What are you talking about?
I remember when I first met you at On It. You came in. You're doing one of the coaches workout. You're probably there for like a film shoot. It was before you moved to Austin.
Okay.
And I could not get over the first impression was she is so nice.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I was like, because I've been fortunate to work with like a lot of athletes, and meet some really cool people. And for the most part, everyone's pretty cool. But like there's always some people that are a little standoffish, or like I remember the first time I met Rogan at On It. At first standoffish, but then once I got to talk to him, very nice guy.
Yeah.
But you from the jump, just so like hospitable and like so humble, and I was like, man, Hannah's a really cool person.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess also confusing because I'm sure I had red hair at that point.
Yes.
Like the image of what I look like, people often tell me like doesn't match up with my personality. And the stuff you put out there online, right? When I'm working out, I look like a absolute psycho. You know, I'm not smiling and having a good time. So I think they just assume that my personality would match. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But again, you're just like so dope and so humble.
Thank
but
you.
Like, I'm not tech savvy. I'm not in the scene. Like I really keep to myself. I golf, like I work out. I'm so boring. So when I came in, I was like, who is that? And everyone's like, oh, that's Hannah Eden. She's an On It athlete. And I was like, oh, dope. And I was like, I looked you up online. I was like, oh shit, she's a big deal. And I was like, she's so nice. It's surprising because I met you before I looked you up online, or before I looked you up on Instagram, which is, I feel like, probably always makes for a more genuine impression.
For sure.
So I'm glad that we met that way, because like had I seen like, oh, Hannah Eden, 400 whatever thousand followers coming in, like I was like, I would probably would have been a little more nervous. But you just coming in to work out with Paolo, and I was like, oh, these people are dope.
That's what's up. Babbo.
Yeah. Babbo. Yeah, like I said, but yeah, because with your accent, and he has an accent as well.
Yeah.
I definitely thought you guys were saying Babo and not Paolo.
Funny.
I was like, he doesn't look like a Babo, but all right.
I'm going to take that one home for sure.
Yeah, call him that. Yeah, just start calling Babo around the house.
Babo,
hopefully your
for sure.
son doesn't start calling him that.
Well, my son's way of saying, because he's confused, poor child, he's 14 months, and we speak Portuguese in the house.
Oh, do you speak Portuguese?
I do. Not like the best, but enough to communicate with our son, and our nanny only speaks Portuguese.
Oh,
so I don't
that's
have a choice but to communicate.
From Brazil?
She's from Brazil.
Okay.
Actually raised Babo, which is the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so when we say ball in Portuguese, it's bola. And my son's way of saying bola is babo.
Oh, no
So
way.
that's
going to
funny.
be confusing.
I know. It's like it's meant to be.
The only Portuguese I know is obrigado.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like I said, I got to work with a couple of MMA fighters from Brazil. Some of them speak pretty good English. I worked with Claudia Gadelia, and she was self-taught English, if I'm not mistaken, and it was really good. She's like a very very diverse individual, because she has taught herself a lot, and she's very, very smart. And I know she has like a certain amount of like schooling done, but at the time she was like the #1 ranked contender in the world, total badass, black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Amazing.
Yeah, but that was the first athlete from Brazil, or honestly, maybe even the first person from Brazil that I ever met. Because this is Albuquerque, New Mexico, very heavy like Hispanic population.
Is that home for you?
Yes, yeah. Cool. I was born in LA originally, but I moved out of LA when I was like 7.5, like 8 years old, right around there, right before my little sister was born. And then we moved to Albuquerque and lived there for like 25, 26 years. Yeah, very pretty geographically. Have you ever been to Albuquerque or New Mexico?
I have. We lived in an RV for 10 months, and we spent time in New Mexico.
No way.
Did a lot of like White Sands National Park,
Beautiful.
The caves.
Yeah, Carlsbad.
Yeah, Carlsbad
Caverns.
Reno.
Yeah,
we
Reno.
did all.
That's in Nevada.
Not Reno, sorry. Where was it? Where
Ruidoso?
the aliens?
Oh, Roswell.
Roswell. Thank you. There you go.
Roswell. Yeah. R. You had the R.
You had to do that.
Roswell is so bizarre.
I know.
Because there's a military institute down there. So like I'd go down there to play against their high school, and actually, the military institute and their 2 local high schools were in our district for baseball, and so I would always go down there. And it was like a 3-hour drive from where we were. It was awful on a school bus.
Of nothingness.
Yeah, of nothing. Yeah, between Moriarty, New Mexico, and Roswell, New Mexico. Not a lot to see, but like the McDonald's has UFOs on it. Like everything is such an alien, bizarre, like tourist, like attraction. But you get people to go check it out, and
got us there.
It's cool. Yeah, it's so because it is so bizarre.
It is super odd. Yeah,
it's the whole personality of the town is UFO. Like I said, they have a junior college military institute as well, so we always played against those guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
fun that you got to check out New Mexico.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah,
spent
did you
some
like
time.
it?
Loved White Sands.
Yeah.
You know,
So unique.
yeah, so cool. Watched the sunset there, epic sunset. This was before we had a baby, so we took our puppy dogs and we had a great time.
Nice.
Sand everywhere.
Was that before you moved to Austin?
Yeah, right
Were you
before we
guys-
moved to Austin is when we did the RV.
So was that like a tour to see where you wanted to live, or did you already know that you wanted to come to Austin?
It was the first one. We were trying to look around and where we wanted to live, but everywhere where we wanted to go was not livable. It was like in national parks in the middle of nowhere. It's like, well, this won't work. But we did spend time. Yeah, it's beautiful, but there's no cell phone service. This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But it gave us a good view of what Austin had. You know, we got to see the nature and we got to see the city. And it was like the good mix of both.
Yeah, Austin does have a good mix of both
Yeah.
because you go to like, I mean, LA or even Houston to an extent, like it's just such a dense city. But like even within downtown Austin, you can go and you go to Barton Creek. Like,
Totally.
Yeah, there's still like nature things to do within the city, which is what I love because where I grew up, I mean, it was dirt roads. Like my high school had a rodeo team.
Yes, that's amazing.
Do you know what 4-H is?
No.
Gosh, I don't even know what the 4-H's stand for, but it's like a high school like agricultural farming program.
Okay.
My high school had like a 4-H
amazing.
program. Yeah, that was like a very common, like they'd have like state competitions. And,
Oh, cool.
yeah, 4-H is actually, it actually is really cool. And it's one of those things like, I almost wish I would have done it now that I'm getting more into like, how cool would it be to like start like homesteading and like being off the grid.
That's what we do.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. We're
See, I
out
wish I
there.
would have taken 4-H so I could do that.
And now we're looking at education for our child too. It's like that's the kind of stuff I think that is life skills that you need to learn.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
You've done the sheepdog stuff with Tim Kennedy?
Yeah.
Phenomenal course.
Amazing. Protector 1 was actually scheduled to do it this weekend, but I'm nursing a slight injury that I've got to prepare for Worlds, and it's one of my best friend's first birthday, or her son's first birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, not your best friend's first
Yeah,
birthday.
that would be weird.
Yeah, we just hit it off right away there. Yeah, little baby.
So much in common, which is
hilarious.
probably true, to be honest.
Yeah, probably more with the child.
Exactly.
What I was getting at is he has like a program or a school called Apogee.
Yeah.
That like, if and when I have kids down the road, like I'm like that's like I want them to learn how to farm and do these things that will actually benefit themselves moving forward. I haven't looked enough into it because again I don't have any kids. So I haven't looked enough into it to be like, is it kind of like a Montessori school? Do they only go to a certain grade and then you send them out to public school, or is this like a beginning of a homeschooling program? I haven't looked that much into it, but it looks awesome.
It looks like it takes them through till they go to high school.
Oh wow!
And it's actually right by me. So I live out in Leander. His place is out in Cedar Park, and it's great. That's exactly what we're looking for. That kind of thing.
Yeah, like I said, if and when I have kids, like that is something I would 1000% want them to do. So much more benefit. So you grew up in the UK?
Grew up in the UK.
How was like schooling out there? Like, do you use a lot what you learned in school? Then do you use it like today at all?
Well, I was a very different person when I lived in the UK, so I didn't like school.
Who
So
does?
yeah. I know that, but I feel like a lot of people that don't like school in the US still took it somewhat seriously, but just like didn't
There's so
like
much
the
pressure.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Not quite as much pressure in England. I went to a public school, not like we have different types of schools. My brother took a test and made it into, I've forgotten the term of it. It's not paid private school. It's still a public school, but it's like a better tier of a public school. You have to
You have to like test into it.
Yeah, you have to test in. I didn't pass that test. I was a really bad test taker.
Yeah.
And I was a really good rebel in England, so
Hell
I
yeah.
didn't go to school. I would skip school, and like I was such a bad child.
Punk rock rebel, huh?
That's right.
That explains the red hair.
Yeah, that makes a lot a sense. Yeah, I was a professional rebel for sure,
That's amazing.
with no cause.
Yeah. Definitely a rebel without a cause.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, because here, like I said, even university, like I feel like I don't use a ton that I learned in school. Now, granted, I still think there are professions where that is very important. If you're going to be a surgeon,
For sure.
learn how to
for
do
sure.
that. Maybe don't just watch some YouTube and be like, yeah, I could, fix
I
a
went to
heart.
school for photography, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can you learn to be creative, right? Like the more you learn
a
is
good
actually
point.
doing it and having the experience. And yeah, maybe I learned some stuff that I could take away from that with like copyright laws.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you just face that if and when you ever need it, you know? So I agree. I'm totally with you. Unless you're going to be a surgeon. If my
Maybe an
kid wants to go
architect.
to college,
Yeah.
cool, we'll support you. But it's not going to be something that we push, like
Yeah.
decide what you want to be for the rest of your life at 18 and go.
Yeah, and then do that.
Exactly.
No, terrible. I would have
Exactly.
been
No.
yeah, I 100% only went to college for sports, like
Yeah.
just to play baseball.
Yeah.
Very like low end of the pack student, just because I didn't care, you
Yeah.
know. And it was one of those things
Yeah.
like I had teachers, like I had a professor at the University of New Mexico, and this was for exercise science. So I even went to school for exercise science, and I still don't really use a ton of what I learned in
Yeah.
school. I've learned so much since then. But the doctor, his name was Lenny Kravitz, actually.
No way.
Yeah, Dr. Leonard
Epic.
Kravitz. Just super funny, like looks like a Seinfeld. Like if you were to be like try to cast someone in a movie, like who's your stereotypical looking little Jewish guy? That was him.
That's
Just
him.
like curly wild hair, like white, just so, but like so energetic. And he was so excited about what he was teaching that like that made me excited.
Yeah.
But it's so rare to find, and unfortunately, to even find like teachers that have that kind of passion.
Yeah.
Like instill that kind of passion in your students. And I feel like as not only as a strength and conditioning coach, but when I've been a sport coach, like I've coached a couple years of baseball after college, I feel like instilling that passion into who you're trying to teach will make them so much more excited.
Yeah, I believe in that too, for sure.
Yeah. So how long have you lived in Austin?
Wow, we moved. We'll be celebrating 3 years in July.
Okay.
End of June, beginning of July.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I am a little over a month away from 4 years.
Ah.
Yeah. And
Do you love it?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Well, to be fair, I do love Austin for sure. I like a little further south, like Kyle, Buda. I was in New Braunfels for maybe like a year and a half total.
Cool.
Have you been to New Braunfels at all?
It's epic.
I love New Braunfels.
That's a good vibe.
Yeah,
like
and
that
that's
a
like
lot.
my kind of like country, like out in the space. Nothing's taller than like 3 stories.
Yep.
Yeah, that's more my vibe. And again, I love Austin. Every time I drive by like Lady Bird Lake, if I'm going out to like Barton Springs Country Club, Creek Country Club, like to go play golf or anything, like you take kind of the back route around and you drive over the river and you look back at the skyline.
It's pretty cool.
And I'm always like, man, that is such a beautiful skyline.
We live out there. We have llamas for neighbors. We can't see our neighbors. We have some land, well, septic tanks. Like we're very much off the grid.
Good for you.
Yeah, like
That's the
I'm trying to decide now. You know, when you have a child, your train of thought really starts to change. Like, where do I want to raise my child, right? For so many reasons, from education to food, et cetera, et cetera. And the States right now isn't necessarily like on the top of the list, you know?
Yeah.
But there are the reasons why we would want to leave, I think, are solvable, such as growing your own vegetables. We are about to get a cow this week, you know, that's going to be hunted in a nice ceremonial way.
Good.
And we'll eat that and grow our food. So there's like solutions to all these things and finding alternative education.
Yeah.
All these things. But
The answers
crazy.
are there.
The answers are there. Life changes whenever you have a baby.
Yeah. So 14 months.
14 months.
Now, this is something I rarely go into podcasts with like questions in the back of my mind. I try to keep them very conversational.
Yeah.
Like kind of like, you know, where'd you start? What are you doing now? Where are you going? Kind of stuff. But I was like, I should ask Hannah like how it's been coming back from having a kid.
Oh man.
Because you're my second female guest, first one that's had a kid.
Yeah. It has been an incredible journey. And I always try and reframe the way that I look at becoming a mom. It's like, because everyone wants you to bounce back and like, you know, come back from somewhere.
Especially doing what you do, like being who you are.
Totally. And I am a totally different person. I'll never be the same person.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing, right? I feel like I have these gifts that I didn't realize that you get gifted when you become a mom that only add to the person I am and the things that I do and the way that I live my life. But it's been epic. I'm so extreme. I had a massive identity crisis when I was pregnant of like, oh, fuck, like who am I now that I have a kid? And all I've ever known is performance and moving and fitness and moving so quickly and like doing so many things and with so much extremity. Extreme. Really extreme things. I'm like, is that still possible as a mom?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And of course, I set myself a really big goal to prove to myself that that is possible.
Yeah.
And so I've been in a totally different season of life from my athletic career and now being a mom that it's wild. It's cool. And you can still do hard things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like something that I feel like you doing that and you're so active about posting about your story that it's, I think like, man, more women should be inspired by this kind of stuff, because you see it happen so often where like, you know, someone has a kid, especially if they have them kind of young, they're like, all right, this is just who I am now. And absolutely your child should be on the forefront of your mind when it comes to making decisions. But a lot of people kind of give up on who they are, and they don't realize the importance of giving a good example to your child of what it's like to be a strong mom and still dedicate time to yourself, or a strong dad or whoever. But setting that example for your child of like, yeah, I had you and I've nourished you and I've loved you, but I'm still keeping myself strong for you.
Yeah, yeah. I spent the last decade on this self-discovery journey of like, who am I? What am I here to do? What is my purpose? And it's so evident to me that I like to do hard things. For a long time, I used to think, man, is there something wrong with me? Is this am I running for something like endurance or extreme sports? You know, like, am I trying to hide or not face something? And went on like a deep dive of this personal discovery journey, probably like 3 years before I got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And the last thing I did before I got pregnant was sit in a darkness retreat.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was so hard. It was so extreme, very aligned with who I am. But it was amazing. And I discovered in that moment, or well, not moment, in those 108 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many days is it?
It was 4 nights, 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Complete darkness.
Total darkness. Like, I had never been in darkness before. A majority of people have never seen pitch black. Like, we think we
like
have
true darkness.
but true darkness
like
is
not a light
something-
under a
No,
door.
you don't see anything in front of your hand. Like, yeah, it's wild.
Scary.
But I came out of that like, there's nothing wrong with me. You just like to do hard things. You like to discover new edges and new parts of yourself, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong, right? So, whenever I had the baby, I said, did I tell you about the Ironman?
No. Yeah,
No?
but I've seen you post a little bit about it in
yeah.
training, so I definitely want to get into that.
Yeah, and so I thought, you know, I don't have to let this part of myself go. I know I feel more capable. I feel like I have untapped potential, and that doesn't stop, right? But it's just a matter of understanding, okay, how do I want to show up as a mom?
Yeah.
I'm very grateful I've created my life to be a certain way that I have that freedom to spend. I work from home, I create my own schedule, I do all those things. So I get to be a mum first, but I can also do more than that. And I don't think that one is mutually exclusive than another, you know? And I have this conversation often with mums or people that are thinking about having a baby, or people that are already in motherhood that move so quickly and they're on to the next task and the next thing in the day that they really don't know like who they are and what they like to do, like what sets their soul on fire. So I think that it's important for mums to be able to do both. And I hope that it does give permission, you know, that you can.
Absolutely.
There's, of course, haters out there that will have an opinion, but they always will,
Yeah.
no matter what you do.
You said something I think is very important, like pursuing something that sets your soul on fire. Because again, like finding your purpose and like chasing your purpose, whether that maybe your purpose is to be like the leader of your family, to be a mother or whatever the case may be, and that's awesome.
Totally.
But like I said, there's room to be more. And that you're again, you stated that you're fortunate to have the schedule that you do and be able to create your own schedule. And I understand that, like I have, you know, just one of my sisters has kids. I have a brother that has a kid. But I know obviously a lot of people. I'm 37 now, so I know everybody that has kids. I know a lot of moms out there that have a set schedule, but still prioritize their health and their fitness.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's so important to kind of like set that example. Like, you're in charge of you, and you can make that time. But like I said, I know it's obviously way more difficult when you have a child involved. So it's cool to see that like so much is still capable.
Yeah.
And like setting that example is huge.
Yeah, I think there's like I like to speak from keeping it real, right? And being very transparent that there's a lot of people that project their regret or fear of or lack of something that they were able to do, especially in the online world, right? That there is a lot of that conversation of if you show up for yourself first, that it makes you a bad mother.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think it's the total opposite because I know who I am with fitness in my life and I know who I am without it.
Yeah.
And that's like debatable, right? It's like I actually think it's the total opposite. And if I can take care of me and feel like I'm good, then I show up and I'm a better mom.
Yeah, the best version of you is you with
exactly.
fitness in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of talked about with Brad Womack. He was saying, he's like, I get these people commenting online now, like, oh, it must be nice to have all this free time to train like that. And he's like, even when I didn't, he's like, I was waking up at 4 a.m. and I was getting in it. So it's like, it's priorities.
People think that or assume, and you'll find this out whenever this vision of your gym comes to life, that people think that if you work in a gym or you work in fitness, that all you do is work out all day.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be further from the truth,
Right.
you know? Especially when we had our gym, had the online businesses going, I'd be lucky if I could make time or squeeze time at 5 a.m. To get my workout in, you know? It's just so interesting. It's not what you think.
Yeah, people have a lot of misconceptions,
Yeah.
especially like coming into on it the way not only the time I did, but like it was kind of like in a very interesting transition phase. Like Aubrey previously owned it. Maybe like a month or two after I started, he sold it, and then you know, a little while later came back in and bought it. And yeah, I think it's very interesting that like people from the outside looking in don't really have a good grasp on like what it really means or what it takes to like do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So little Brixton, huh?
Little Brixton, he's my homie. Brixton Kai is his first name.
Very nice. My nephew's name's Kai. I love that name.
Yeah, it's a cool name. Middle name Rodrigo, and then last name Barreto. So
I love Hispanic names.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of like, I'm like, I want to name my kid Camilo. Is like
Why
the name
not?
that I really yeah. Or if it's a girl, Camila. Like it's a
name.
beautiful name, and like so I've always. And my dad had in Colombia. My dad was from Colombia. You either have like 2 names or 5.
Yeah.
And so my dad was just Oscar Gomez, like just 2 names. If he ever had to put like a middle initial or middle name, he'd use his mom's maiden name, so it was Oscar Gonzalez Gomez.
Amazing.
Yeah, but like I have cousins that are like Luis Miguel, blah 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 Gomez, and I'm like, man, sometimes you either have 2 or you have 5.
It's so
but
true.
I think they're so pretty.
With me, my dad is Chinese,
Oh,
so
I
they
didn't know
all
that.
only have 2 names, no middle names.
Okay.
Alan Gong, and Paolo's is Paolo Octavio de Castro Barreto. Mine is Hannah Marie Eden Barreto. Like, there's so many names.
Very
so we
nice.
just kept up with the 4, you know?
I like
Keeping
it.
it strong.
4 is a good number.
It is a good number.
Yeah, that was
Why
like
not?
my baseball number was number 4. Yeah, very nice. So what are you working? So you're working on the Ironman.
So yeah, so I just completed the first full Ironman. So I set a goal when I was 3 months postpartum to do a full Ironman at 1 year postpartum.
Wow.
And
Lengthy
maybe
goal. That's wow.
Yeah, this is coming back from having a baby, which is wild. You're like so foreign in your own body and such a tall mountain to climb. I did stay very active throughout my whole pregnancy, which I think is the reason why I was able to.
You did a great job of
back
documenting
in.
that too.
Thank you.
And again,
I appreciate
think that's
that.
so important because like a lot of people either don't know that or don't know like still what women can do like while they're pregnant.
Yeah, I think that's something that I was also intrigued by and very confused, right? Because there's the old train of thought of you shouldn't do anything. If you do anything, you're going to hurt your baby.
Don't stress the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's totally a myth, right?
Yeah.
So then I took it on to get my own education, but from a platform that was created by athletes.
Oh, nice.
So I got my pre and postnatal cert while I was pregnant. So I could understand, like, is this okay what I'm doing? The old school train of thought in the books from however long ago, I think there's been a lot more study since. So I did that, and luckily, for my experience, I didn't have any complications. I had a very low risk pregnancy, minimal side effects, which I actually don't think that fitness has anything to do with that. I think it's just whatever the luck of the draw is, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I stayed very active during the pregnancy. So when I started to train, I started out with strength training, lesser intensity, and then I had a crazy labor experience, which we don't need to go into. I'm sure you don't want to know about that.
I have 3 sisters, like I said, so yeah.
Oh man, it was
probably
wild.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave it at this. I had a very aggressive tear, right?
Okay,
So that left me out of the game. Like I could barely walk for weeks while I was healing. So I had to take things really easy. I think people thought that I went back and went hard right away, which I didn't.
Yeah.
But I just slowly started to chip away and felt like a beginner again, which was great for me as someone that's been an athlete for over 10 years to get back in touch.
A high-level athlete, too.
You know, like I think it's easy to get out of touch with the people that you're coaching, right? Because you've been in it and it just seems so natural now. But for me, it was not at all. Like I remember my first 5K test, it was brutal.
Yeah.
But just got back on and chipped away very slowly. And was able to do it. I had a crazy journey. So June 1st was...
June 1st of 2024?
Yeah. Okay. So I set the goal in January. Okay. I had my baby in September last year.
Gotcha.
Started training like end of January, beginning of February. Iron Cowboy was my coach, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
James Lawrence. And he's like, all right, well, for part of training, if you want to do a half Ironman, if you want to do a full Ironman, you need to do a half Ironman. At this point, I'd never done a triathlon before.
Wow.
Okay?
Not even like a sprint triathlon?
No, I went to New Braunfels to try and do it.
Oh, nice.
Showed up, and it got rained out while I'm in my wetsuit. Was cancelled.
No.
So bummed. So I'm showing up to Hawaii for my first triathlon, which is a half Ironman, right?
Wow.
Very on brand for me as well.
Yeah, just
like,
dive
so
right
fucking
in.
extreme. So I do it and had zero pressure or zero expectations for myself. I'm like, okay, coach, like, what are we focusing on in this race? He's like, have fun, thank as many volunteers as possible. Remember that you get to do this. You don't have to do this. You chose to suffer.
Awesome.
You only get to do your first half Ironman and your first triathlon once. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I did. I went out with like zero fucks, honestly, which ended, there's a good moral to this story. Not like I didn't care, but like I'm not looking to find a pace. I'm not going to look at data. I'm just going to go purely off of feel, right?
Yeah, and I want to enjoy this.
I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm in freaking Hawaii.
Right.
My family are here, my son and my mom and my husband and my friends are at the finish line. Like, this is such a privilege, and I'm so aware of that.
Yeah.
And I just kept channeling that mindset and freaking landed and got 3rd place in my age group and qualified for World Championships.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, so that's what's happening in December, which is what I'm training for right now.
Where? Is it in December?
That's in New Zealand.
Let's go.
Never been. So that's in Taupo, which is
I
really
thought that's where you
cool.
were born. No, I'm just kidding.
We were saying that I sound very much like that.
Yeah.
But then the main goal was September.
Okay.
Which is actually another conversation where it's a mindfuck right now. But excuse my French. Do you curse on there?
I curse on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I very much express like my spirituality, but I'm always like, man, I kind of hope my pastor's not watching because I just said fuck. Like,
sorry.
Yeah.
There's range here, okay,
Yeah,
people? There's range.
But real people.
Yeah. So the goal was September, which was in Italy, which again, beautiful. If I'm going to do this and make it so demanding on the whole family, we're going to go somewhere and have a good time afterwards.
Yeah, it can be a vacation for everybody else.
Exactly, exactly. So I held on to that, and I did it, dude. It was wild. I keep saying it like it was amazing, but I don't think amazing is the right way to explain that.
Wild's a better fit.
Yeah, it was wild.
What are the distances in a full Ironman?
So you start with a 2.4 mile swim.
Okay.
I did it in ocean swim.
That's tough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Were the waters calm or kind of rocky?
No, it was wild. And this is so irresponsible, maybe is the right word for me. It's just like so extreme. It is what it is. But I hadn't swam in the ocean.
Uh-oh.
Like I was not a swimmer in my athletic career thus far.
Interesting, because you have like a kind of a swimmer build.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I haven't swam since I was probably like, seriously, since I was like 10, you know, when it was part of school curriculum. Yeah. And so I was a total beginner in the pool. That was like my most feared modality when approaching this.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I got swimming in a pool down because you get to follow this black line. It's clear, you know, there's a current. You turn around after 25 yards.
Yeah, so you're working on your turns.
Exactly. And then I realized, oh shit, I've never swum in an ocean before. And I went in a couple of days before, and the waves were so high. I was getting whipped around. My godmother was with me. She was like looking at me like, oh my God, she's about to do a 2.4 mile swim in the ocean and she can barely swim. So I was just panicking. Yeah. So she's trying to remind me, don't forget, your arms are parallel. And I was like, okay, I must be really look like I don't know what I'm doing right now. That she's telling me that
your mother-in-law's,
yeah. Come on. So I do the swim, and that was crazy. But then after the swim, it's a 112-mile bike ride. And then after the bike ride, it's 26.2 miles, a full marathon.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's a pretty long one.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I very, very briefly, well, not briefly, but a long time ago, I was training for a sprint triathlon. After I was done playing college baseball, I started working at a gym. We had one of our other coaches that was like, yeah, I want to get this like sprint triathlon program going. And I was like, oh, let me sign me up. I'll do it. And swimming was the thing I was most comfortable with.
It ended up being that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy if you're consistent with something and it actually works?
Yeah. Well, it's like you hear, I don't know how familiar you are with baseball, but like you'll hear about pitchers that blow out their elbow and they require what's called Tommy John surgery. And they usually come back throwing harder, and it's because of the work they put into their rehab to come back. So they come back stronger. So kind of probably the same thing of like, oh, I hate swimming, but I'm going to train so hard that it becomes my
strength,
strong point.
Right. Yeah. But it was a crazy experience, dude. You know, the amount of time that you have alone, just to like set the scene and the vibe here is there's no music. You can't listen to anything.
Wow.
So I trained like that, you know, and I do these things not for race day. Race day is like the glory lap of the work you've done, right? But the person that you become. Say that again?
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the race day is a glory day, like the glory race. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
If the training is done well, then you get to enjoy race day and be like, the last 8 months have gotten me here.
Yeah.
I've also done things in my career where I haven't trained for them. And then race day is just survival mode, you know? And I don't want that to be the case. I want my mind to be the thing that I'm testing, not my body, right? Like you don't get to test your mind if your body quits on you first, you know? So I think that the journey towards the race day or the journey towards Italy and the person I became or discovered in the training leading up to that it's a crazy experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, because like very similar with like fighters, the training is grueling, but it leads up to like what you actually enjoy doing, which is competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I always tell everyone when I message fighters that I'm training, or even myself when I fought, it was more so. It almost seems like you're training for the weigh-in, and then once you get past the weigh-in, like I always tell people, all right, now it's time to have fun.
Yeah.
Like you've made weight, your training is done.
Yeah.
Now you get to eat, drink, be
Yep.
happy, and
Nothing you can do
tomorrow
can
you get to
change.
fight or
Yeah.
compete or however you want to put it.
So when it comes to fighting, this is something that was new for me in the endurance world. Is it aligned that you don't really know where you're at until race day?
Yeah.
Because training, it feels like it doesn't make sense. Like in order to run longer, you don't run longer.
Right.
You know, like you're
You
doing
train
all these
specific
different
energy zones. Yeah.
Whereas if I'm in a CrossFit world, right, every day I go into the gym, I have like this check-in of where I'm at physically. I know based on my workout. Whereas when you're on an easy run or you're doing zone 3 intervals or you're doing like a brick run or a brick ride, you really don't know if you're ready.
No.
You really don't know until this one day, and you just got to trust the process, which is a lot of what motherhood teaches you too, which is surrender,
nice.
let go, and just trust the process. Like
Trust
it's
the
going to
process.
work out.
Trust the work you put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was spot on with MMA. Like we train a lot of like specific energy systems or energy zones for conditioning. When it comes to actual strength and conditioning, fighters so often kill themselves within the weight room or outside the weight room, that when they are in the weight room, it's really about like optimizing their strength in certain positions, making sure they're structurally strong. They can not only deliver force but absorb force, and then conditioning. I think conditioning is probably the biggest benefit of fighters doing strength and conditioning, because so many fighters are like kind of still it's such a young sport in the grand scheme of like being televised and being popular. And so a lot of fighters still have a very like old school mindset of like, I'm going to do my training and my fighting, and then I'm just going to go run, an absurd amount of miles, which is fine. It's good to have that aerobic base. But if you're not training like anaerobic peaks, it's not going to benefit you in a fight, because a fight is not a 30-minute jog.
State. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not what it is. You have your sprint efforts within your long duration efforts. So yeah, like conditioning wise, you have an idea because of sparring, and as a fight camp winds down, you'll have harder sparring rounds towards probably like most camps will do them like 3 weeks out from fight camp. You'll have like your last like hard sparring rounds that are supposed to be like 85-90% of like what you'll be fighting at pace wise. And you'll know then, be like, oh God, like I'm not ready. And I had such confidence going into my last fight because of the work I put in.
Yeah.
That I really felt like it didn't matter who you're going to put in front of me.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I was putting in work in the weight room that most fighters were not going to be doing. Especially at that level, because it was amateur, but also like who I was training with, and like the coaches, the training partners, and the amount of work they were putting me through. I was like, yeah, I have the utmost confidence that like I can stand in there with anybody, and I'm gonna be fine. So yeah, you kind of don't know, you know what you got until you got it, and like George St. Pierre, you know who George St. Pierre is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's become like really big like in the health industry, which is interesting. But he's on the Mount Rushmore of fighters, like top 3 greatest fighters of all time, for sure, maybe top 2. But he was notorious. I say notorious because I don't necessarily agree with it, but I kind of like the idea behind it. He would go and he would train in the MMA scene. He would train as hard as he could for 25 minutes, like just all out 25 minutes, and then call it. And people are like, well, why are you training like that? And he's like, because I want to know how hard I can go for 25 minutes. Like, I want to know how high my ceiling is. Like, can I push this hard for this long? Because a championship fight is 5-minute rounds, so 25 minutes.
But you have how much rest in between?
A minute.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have 5-minute rounds, a minute in between. And he would just push himself for as hard as he could.
Wow.
Not every day. And from what I hear, I never worked with him. He was in Albuquerque for a little while, but that was before I got into it. Yeah, he would just, push his ass for as hard as he could for 25 minutes, just see like, if I find myself keeping this pace in a fight, can I keep this pace?
Yeah.
Or am I screwed if I feel like I've hit this level of exhaustion? I know I'm not going to be able to recover.
Totally.
Yeah, because in any sport that has any sort of like breaks in it, the athlete that recovers the quickest will always have the advantage. So we work on that with fighters. That's why like our cardio efforts have like a set recovery time in between each one. And I like, especially if I'm training one-on-one with a fighter versus a group, I will try to make sure that they have a heart rate monitor on,
Yep.
so we can track like how quickly is their heart rate
That's cool.
dropping in between efforts.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I had a great mentor. His name is Lawrence Herrera in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that worked with like the biggest names in MMA, and just such a goofy guy, like
Yeah.
so cool, so like definitely it became a very good friend of mine. We'd go out and shoot bows, and I remember when I left to come out here, we went and grabbed a beer, and I was like, "Hey man, I gotta talk to you." And I was like holding back tears because
Oh,
I
man.
respected him so much. I loved the
Yeah.
gym that I worked at, but it was COVID in Albuquerque was rough. Like it was
Mhm.
just such a bad scene out there. And I came out to visit my little sister out here, and Texas was still like booming. I was
Yep.
like, man, it's about time for me to make the jump. And a couple other things fell into place where I was like, all right, like. So I told my boss, and the whole reason I started with him. So you ever met Cowboy Cerrone?
I have not, but I know who he is.
Yeah, so another was
Yeah.
another on-it athlete. He was co-owner of the gym that I was working at.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah, so I had connections with On It. I got to come out and do a couple certifications, and like I absolutely loved On It and everything it stood for and what it represented within the industry. And so when I very first went to talk to him, like almost 3 years before I actually moved out here, I went to talk to him to see about his connections at On It, because this was like 2017. I was over Albuquerque, like some personal stuff was going on. I was like, I just got to get out of here, and so I went to talk to him, and I was like, hey, like, can you reach? He knew some of the fighters I'd worked with, and we'd had some brief conversations. We actually were on a flight together, coincidentally, out here to Austin, so we had a brief conversation at the airport. But I always like kind of was like, man, that's Cowboy strength coach. That's
Yeah.
John Jones strength coach. Like,
Yeah.
man, this is wild. So I went to talk to him about his connections at On It, and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I can reach out to some people for you. And then the next morning, I got a call, or actually, I didn't even get a call. I got an email from my then boss at a different gym I was working with. He thought I went to talk to Lawrence. I don't know. Someone had planted a bug, right? You know,
Yeah.
there was a wire in there.
Yeah.
They were listening to our conversation. I know who it was. It was one of the other coaches in there. But he thought that I went to Lawrence to talk to him about getting a job at Performance Ranch, the gym in Albuquerque. And so without any sort of explanation or questions or
No
anything, just fired me
communication.
over an email.
Wow.
And so I called Lawrence right away. I was like, hey man, I don't know who's over there like spilling the beans, but I just got an email because they thought I was trying to ask you for a job. And he's like, well, give me a little bit and I'll get back to you. I was like, all right, cool, man.
What a blessing.
What a blessing. It really was. It was one of those things where like for years, I told myself, I was like, if I ever see the owner of that gym again, it's on site. Like I'm going to hit him. I'm not an angry person. I've never been in like a true street fight because I find myself like, nah, this isn't worth it.
Yeah. But you were angry.
Oh, I was pissed.
Yeah.
And also I wasn't pissed at getting fired because again, it did like within half an hour, Lawrence had sent me an email with a contract to work at Performance Ranch. He took care of me. Like he caught me when I fell. It was awesome. He was fucking great. But I was just like, man, what a coward.
Yeah.
What a coward to fire me over an email. He didn't shoot me a text, a call. He didn't offer like, hey, meet me here for coffee.
Yeah.
Like we got to talk. He didn't ask any questions. Like he's like, your contract has been terminated. We found that you went to go ask for a job, blah, blah. Because he was pissed off because so while Performance Ranch was being built, Lawrence was renting out space in his gym to train fighters. And when Lawrence left to go to Performance Ranch, they knew that was the deal the whole time. And when Lawrence left to go open Performance Ranch, I think 2 or 3 of the other coaches, the gym was called Athlete Ready. 2 or 3 of the other coaches left with him to go work at Performance Ranch. So the owner of Athlete Ready just like had such a bitter taste in his mouth about anything Performance Ranch. So when he found out that I went over there to talk to Lawrence, he just instantly axed me.
Yeah.
And what's wild is I saw him at the airport not that long ago in Austin.
What was that interaction like?
Didn't say anything. I walked right
Dude, I
past
have
him.
a very similar story.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
It was one of my first experience, well, probably the first time I ever got burned in business, which is, they're all blessings.
You remember? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I will never forget it.
Yeah.
This was 2014, 10 years ago.
Wow.
And the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Nice.
So 2014, 2012, I start CrossFit.
Oh, nice.
2013, I like get really good really quick. I think I'm going to the CrossFit Games, blah, 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 blah. So I'm working out at this gym that became my family. And I won't say names because I got nothing bad to say other than thank you.
I'll put Lawrence's name out there, but I left the other guy.
Yeah. And so this gym was great. I got my CrossFit level 1, started coaching CrossFit. It was great. Anyway, the gym couldn't fill a class at 7:30 p.m. with anyone.
Okay.
They're like, do something with this class. Don't let it be CrossFit. And at that time, I'm bartending in South Florida. I've got a big community. I'm having a good time, loving like the juxtaposition of being this rager while loving fitness at the same time.
Yeah.
And I ended up managing to fill this class, and we got it packed, and it was boot camp, right? It was like all of CrossFit. Excuse my phone, I think it's ringing. Just make sure that it's not the baby that needs me or anything.
Yeah, good to have the baby on call.
Yeah, no, we're good. And end up filling this class, and it blows up, right? And at this time, I'm in school for photography at the Art Institute, and so I'm learning about marketing and how to like create flyers and do all these things. So I start using this class as my project that I'm trying to build. I end up blowing this class up, right? People are traveling like an hour down to come to this class. We've got 40 people in this class. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30.
That's a tough time, especially on Friday.
I know, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like making it
Friday.
happen. I'm like, this speaks volumes to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Around the same time, I enter into a competition with Reebok to be the face of Reebok, right? This is the face of Reebok 1, which was like this little thing that they were trying to do. So all these things are happening at the same time. I'm building my own thing. This class is working. I'm getting confidence as a coach. I'm trying to find out who I am in the fitness space. All these great things are happening. And I had a conversation with the owner and was going to open up another facility because it was really booming. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to be part of that. And so at first there was definitely a conversation that had happened. But then I had a conversation with Paolo. I always felt like underappreciated, overworked, making $15 an hour, but there's 40 people that are coming in because of me. Like really
you
felt
didn't get
conflicted.
like a per head?
No.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with Babo.
Yeah, Babo.
And saying like, dude, if we're going to do this, why don't we just do this on our own? I'm at this point 23.
Oh.
Yeah. 23. Have no idea about business. I went from being college graduate to landing a job in being a professional bartender, like no work experience.
Was this in Miami?
This is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale, very nice.
Yeah. And so we decide to go to Brazil, try and find investors, yada, yada, yada. So we decided to do it on our own. Mm-hmm. And I told the owner of the gym, and he could not handle it. And so he's like, okay, cool, absolutely, congratulations, but super weird. And I'm like, wait, these are supposed to be like family to me, you know, like I'm in my mind, maybe my ego speaking very loudly and shining strong there, but I'm like, I've helped bring more people to their gym, and I'm creating this social media presence. Is when I started Instagram. I'm working with Reebok. I'm getting things filmed at their gym. Their gym's getting exposure. Like, I would think that they want me to win. Like, I thought that they were family. And then a week or two goes by, and I found the location. We've got this gym. We're making moves to do this on our own, right? I have like 30-something members that are signed up to this boot camp that I'm doing. Yeah. But they signed a contract with his gym. And so he put me in a room and was like, absolutely, you guys can go, but you have to pay for the members that you're taking. And if you don't, I'll send them to collections. And I'm like, oh, wow. Wait, what? And I was like, how much? Can we talk about this? Yeah. Bear in mind, I'm a bartender. I have no money.
Yeah, you're
right?
23.
So
yeah.
I'm 23. Yeah. They're like, yeah, it's going to be $10,000. And at that time, $10,000 just seemed like...
That's a car.
It was like, there's no way I can do this. And then the messages are coming through, and I still have never spoken to them. It was the best time and the best thing I ever did that changed me on a human level, because prior to this, I'm a hot-headed, very irritable, young, aggressive little girl, right? Yeah. That if someone ever spoke to me the way that they spoke to me, I'd like find him and want a fist fight, and have been in many street fights, right? I'm like, okay. And he said something like, don't ever fucking forget who made you, you know?
Oh,
and I left it at that. I didn't let them say anything. I figured out a way to set up a payment plan, pay them their full payments of $2,500, pick up extra shifts, never retaliated, gave them everything that they wanted. I try to switch my perspective on, I get to start my business with 30 members that are signed up.
That's a good,
even though I'm going to be in the red for a little bit longer, like, take this as a blessing. You got to build your business. You got to find out who you are as a coach. You got to use their facility to test this theory out. So thank you.
Yeah, and you had to find out who your ally wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I did, and we've never spoken to each other since.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah. That's way more wild than my story.
No, it's not. It's a
everyone's story.
Thing,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then because of that, now you're here. You know.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
And because of that, I continued and went all in. I was like, there's no other option other than to make this work. At first, to be honest, it was 100% like, I'm going to show you, motherfucker.
Yeah, stick it to him.
Exactly.
For sure.
And that worked for a while, and then I realized like that's not a healthy motivation to do this every day, and you've got to switch that up.
Can't wake up with anger.
Oh, I was choosing violence every single morning.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Really reminds me of, so going back to the first Brazilian fighter I worked with, Claudia, she definitely grew up in like the streets. Like, she's tough. which is funny because she's arguably like one of the most attractive female fighters. But dope, good individual. I really like her. But I remember one of the first times I hung out with her outside the gym, she invited me to go get sushi. I, like, to my everlasting shame, do not like sushi. I have such a child's
What?
palate. I
Okay, it's
know.
okay.
It's really embarrassing, to be honest
Nah,
with
it's
you.
fine.
Yeah, I go somewhere, I'm like, you take all this off the cheeseburger? Like, I'm such a child. But it's just, I just don't like it. Like,
That's
I'm like,
okay.
yeah, I've
You
started
and
to
my dad
accept
have a
that.
lot in common. He
Oh,
doesn't like sauces. He wants a plain cheeseburger. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
I think
not a bad,
I
not a
think
bad
the
thing.
meat and cheese should be the star of the show. But even like sushi is such a social thing. So many people are like, hey, let's get sushi. Let's go, let's talk about it over sushi or whatever. And I'm like, and it's also like very pretty, the art of
Yeah,
it, and like
yeah.
you can just become a snob, kind of like people that drink scotch.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, scotch is disgusting too.
I'm
Um,
aligned with you there.
yeah. But so we go to get sushi, and it's some little divey sushi place in Albuquerque. It's Albuquerque, first of all, so you can question the sushi already. Um, and it's all you can eat sushi for whatever amount. And I'm just there like hanging out. It's her and another fighter, and they're just going to town on the sushi. And she's like pulling all the rice off of it and just like eating the other stuff. And I think she maybe even asked the waiter. She's like, "Hey, could you ask the chef to like not put as much rice on it?" And like it just came out with like more and more rice each time. And she has like a pile of rice next to her. And like the chef was like being a dick, like just like sending these like
No.
rice rolls out.
Oh man.
And she's like, 5 years ago, I'd come back tonight and break out all their windows. So that's exactly what your
Dude,
story reminds me. I'm
dude.
like, yeah. But
I have a
she's like,
history.
nah.
Yeah, yeah, I have a history. I was a very angry child.
Yeah, yeah. I was a very happy child externally, but I was a very like tormented child internally. Like I was so angry,
Yeah.
so angry. But I think it was more so, it might have been fear or probably more so
Mhm.
fear than respect
Mhm.
for my dad. I love my dad very much, but I feared him very much too.
Mhm.
And so I never like outwardly expressed like how angry I was.
Yeah.
But man, it came out from time to time for
Yeah.
sure. But like at the end of the day, I think I gotta credit my mom for like I always found a way to like be calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in
I
most
did not.
instances. Yeah, I did not. I was a
I did
rager.
not. I was a very angry child.
Yeah.
Very angry child.
When did you move to the States?
16.
Ooh,
Tough age, man.
angry time.
Yeah, because I was such a bad kid.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
you
like
know,
that's funny. My dad, he moved to the States when he was 16 from Colombia because he was such a bad kid.
yeah, it was
I
a
was like,
blessing.
I was like, Dad, if you got kicked out of Colombia in the 60s, how bad were you?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean?
It's wild.
Such a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah, such a blessing. My poor parents.
Yeah.
And having a child, I'm pretty sure this is going to come back around at some
Yeah.
point and bite me in the ass.
You'll
you
get
know?
that, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I
That's
deserve it.
Cosmic.
I
Yeah.
remember my mom always used to say to me when we'd be in the thick of it, she'd be like, just you wait till you have children. And now I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You know?
Yeah.
He's
Wild.
14 months, but when he's 12 to 16,
Yeah.
let's hope that I get
you
a different hand dealt.
Do you think that might be an easier hand because it's a boy?
Yeah, but we want to have another baby.
Oh, that's
And
right.
I
Yeah.
do think that for some reason, I do think that I'm going to be a
Spit
boy
out my
mom.
wine.
You know? Yeah, exactly. But if I do have a girl, I think girls are challenging. You know,
Yeah.
like it's such a confusing place to be as a little girl. You know,
Yeah.
trying to navigate all the things.
I can't
And I'm
imagine.
sure it is for boys too. You know, but
Nah, let's just go.
Yeah, yeah, but now we're in a different era, right?
We're in a
where
very
we're
different
trying
era.
to allow feelings and all those things that maybe Paolo didn't get, my brother didn't get, you
Yeah.
probably didn't get growing up, you know, but to deal with emotions, man, hormones are a crazy thing.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Watching like me and my brothers grow up versus watching like my sisters grow up, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want girls. But like, I think every guy, to be honest with you, I think every guy that I know like definitely wants a daughter at some point.
Yeah.
Like, of course, guys want boys more so like. Maybe it's like a evolutionary thing where like, oh, I need a male to carry on the family
Yeah.
name or whatever, or to do better than I did kind of thing. Like you see so many parents like force their athlete child to like, oh, I need to be like, you played in college, but you want your kid to play pro
Yeah.
and you're just overly.
Totally.
Like I said, boys, I feel like it's very much like you it's like go and push and do that. But like girls, you have to handle totally
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
I think universe, source, God, whatever gives you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine that is desperate for a boy and he's on his 5th girl. I'm like, you keep wishing, you're going to
Yeah.
keep getting girls.
Well, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like the easiest way to lose something is want it too bad.
That's exactly
And I don't know if
it.
there's any truth to that, but
it makes
it is.
sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Like you're just maybe be grateful that they're healthy children.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you'll have a boy.
And every time they're like, it's a girl, I'm like, oh man, how many kids do you need to
Bummer.
get? Yeah, sorry. Our first baby's a boy.
Yeah, jackpot.
Definitely like, fuck you, underneath his voice, you know?
Send him all kinds of
It's all
pictures of your
good.
baby boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, like you're saying, like the universe or God, and to me they're the same. Gives you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
And talking about like the hard times and what a blessing the hard times were.
Mhm.
It took me a while to develop the mindset, but I very much I have maybe I heard it somewhere and stole it, but it's very much like my motto where I'm like I'm thankful for the hard times.
Oh yeah.
Like the hard times made me, and I've unfortunately been through a lot of shit, but it's like I can 100% say like I wouldn't be who I am today without those hard lessons. And you talk about, you were 23 when you got burned by that gym. When I was 28, I got divorced and total like rug pulled out from underneath me. And it was so hard to see for the first few months of like, because the first few months after that, like I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm 28, which to me, I was like already like, oh man,
so
midlife
old,
crisis.
yeah.
I know. But like I had nothing.
How
like
long were you married for?
we were married for 1.5 years, together for 6 years. Still like everything was good. Very good woman. Good family and everything like that. Like it wasn't like a wild scenario that led to our divorce. But we both kind of realized like I just feel like we're living with a friend, and it wasn't what we wanted at the time. I was 28, she was 26. She had just gone through some pretty significant personal changes, and like I said, for me, I was like, because we were about to buy a house together, just a bunch of stuff like that, right? And getting that taken out from underneath me, like blindsided, like just one night, and like. If looking back on it, it probably wasn't truly blindsided. Like you have a feeling, right? You have your intuition, your gut feeling of like this is just not heading in a great direction. But me being the hopeless romantic that I am, I was like, it's gonna work out. Like it'll be okay. Like this is just a phase. We'll get through it. Everything's gonna be fine. And then she hits me with a like, hey, this is the talk we need to have. And I left that night. Like I was all right, cool. Like I'm not gonna stick around and I'm not gonna sleep on the couch while you sleep in the bed. Like I packed up my shit and I left that night. And I went and I slept in my mom's driveway because I didn't want to wake her up. It was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I'm just gonna sleep in my car in the driveway.
Oh,
and
man.
stayed at my mom's house for maybe like 2 or 3 months. And I remember at that time, like I would wake up in the middle of the night like in physical pain, just like crying, like where am I? And because I'd wake up because it was my mom's house. She didn't have like my child. We moved around so much because again we were never at any point like financially secure. So we were moving around a bunch, never owned a house, and at this time, like my mom and my 2 sisters were in a very nice house in Albuquerque up in the foothills. And I go and I'm laying on like that 2 months I'm there, I'm sleeping on like a foam mat on the floor of an empty bedroom. And so you can imagine like waking up there in the middle of the night, there's no person next to you that was there for years. I was like, what the hell? And then for whatever, again, I'm so fortunate because that is hands down the best thing that's ever happened to me. Because like it gave me a clean slate to find out who I was. At a time where I was mature enough to find out who I was. Because it had something like that happen to me at 23. Hell no. Not me who I was at 23. At 23, I was still trying to play baseball. I stopped playing college baseball when my dad passed away when I was 21. And so at 23, I was still kind of thinking like, oh, I can find a tryout or go play independent league or something. I even looked back into seeing if I had any college eligibility because I stopped playing college ball, which I didn't have eligibility anymore for sports. I could still go be a student, obviously. But it started me on a journey that has so vastly, like drastically changed my life that I could probably walk by my ex-wife in a grocery store right now and she wouldn't recognize me.
Really?
Yeah, I was probably like 8 months before I got divorced. I was like 230 very soft pounds.
Way.
Yeah, I was very chubby. I was always kind of like a chubby athletic kid growing up and like somewhat fit. Like you'd probably consider me more athletic than chubby. But then like after being a college athlete and like I gave up so much of who I was personally to help support her, which was fine. I'm not going to knock her for that because she never asked me. She's like, hey, stop playing college baseball to help me get through grad school. It was never anything like that. But it was just me, like, I was betting on a horse. I was like, if I had to bet on myself or bet on her, she's the prettier looking horse, like, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Which is such a bad way. Like, you always bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself. But I didn't. I put all my chips on that table. And I'm not working out, but it was such a beautiful gift. Because it gave me a clean slate. Like I said, I was able to start over from nothing and be like, okay, there's no expectations on who I'm supposed to be. I'm not a baseball player anymore. I'm not a married guy anymore. Like, who do I
Who
want
am
to be?
I? Yeah.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
do I want to be? Um, and I had an essence of like who I was as a person, and then I just built on that because I was always like randomly I won homecoming king at my high school.
Amazing.
I never considered myself like a popular guy, but I got along with everybody. I was just nice to everybody, and I never had like beef with anybody.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, if my life is this hard, other people's lives are probably hard too.
Yeah.
So why try to like fight someone just because
Totally.
they're angry at how shitty their life is?
Right. You have no idea what's going on in their world.
Yeah, especially where I grew up. Like it was, I mean, unfortunately, we had so, like when I was in high school, so many kids die. Like whether they flipped a four-wheeler or I had a kid, and again, I'll leave names out of it. I played football with him. I want to say junior year of high school, he got his girlfriend pregnant. Like it was either senior year of high school or maybe the summer after senior year. I think it was a daughter, started calling another guy dad. Yeah, tough, right? And he just gets drunk, walks out into the middle of a cornfield, blows his brains out.
Oh my God.
And that's the kind of shit that like where I went to high school was like it's a small town. There's not a lot of if you're not a landowner, there's nothing to progress in. Like you can't go be a CEO of the grocery store. You know what I mean? So it's tough where I grew up, and so seeing those kind of scenes and it's like you never know what people are going through at home.
For real.
And that led me to because then people didn't know what I was going through at home because I portrayed myself as a well put together kid. Meanwhile, like I'm living in pretty rough circumstances at home. Dad's doing everything he can to provide for us, as is my mom. But that just leads to them being more frustrated because they're trying so hard, but we're not really getting anywhere. And then we have, I was one of 6 kids. So just a lot going on and a lot of stress, anxiety. And like I said, you never know, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Like that's such a trivial age. Like scenes could be good. Even the kids that had money, they could still have it very tough at home.
When I moved from England to the States, we moved to a town in Massachusetts that was extremely wealthy. And it was that money doesn't bring happiness.
No.
The amount of kids that my ex-boyfriend overdosed.
Oh, no
I have so many kids that we went to school with that committed suicide or had an injury, fell into a pain pill that led to heroin, and now they've OD'd, right? So many kids I went to high school, same thing. And there's all the money in the world there, and it just goes to show that it's, you don't know. And having emotional intelligence is such a gift to be able to know that. Anger shows up when there could be pain, so like don't judge this angry kid, right? Like that takes a lot of emotional intelligence to understand that.
Yeah, trying to, especially with kids, like trying to understand why they're angry is so tough. And trying to like calm that is even harder.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get divorced at 28 and I'm like, well, I know I'm good at like communicating. I know I'm good with people. I know that I have a pretty good understanding of like how to make people feel comfortable. And so that's when I like really started getting into training. And then one thing I always wanted to do, and my dad, before he passed away, he'd always like tell me, he's like, because he used to like Bruce Lee movies and stuff like that. He's like, you should get into, he'd always talk about karate, but I think he just wanted like martial arts in general.
Yeah.
He's like, you should get into it. Like, it's such good control. And maybe he saw that I was angry, like underneath.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why he kept kind of like telling me about it. But I was so into baseball, I was like, those aren't even real sports.
Right.
I'm not going to go play a fake sport like I'm playing a real sport. But my dad would always like that. And we'd watch like ESPN Classic, like Muhammad Ali fights.
Nice.
Yeah, so my dad always wanted me to get into martial arts. So at 28, I'm very fortunate to be in the right position to meet the Brazilian fighter that I worked with, Claudia. Total right guy, right time. And again, because of I without sounding arrogant, like my God-given gifts of like being able to communicate and like and build genuine connections with people. Her and I hit it off instantly. Like I trained her for a weekend. I covered her. Like her trainer went out of town. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to cover Claudia for the weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." We had one session together and just hit it off. So when she came back for her second camp, she fired that guy, brought me in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was great. And that, like I said, that divorce started me down that path of like, let's see what this human body can do. And let's not put limits on anything. And it's been so beautiful since, I mean, that's 9 years ago that I got divorced. And it's been such an awesomely wild ride.
Freeing, yeah.
Yeah,
Have
very
you ever
freeing.
read The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday?
No.
It's a great book. It talks about that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to write that down.
It's a really good book.
I have an Audible credit, so I need to use that. Yeah.
I wrote a kettlebell program based off the concept of this book, which makes no sense. But we would always have like phases of the program, and we'd set like a mindset prompt for each one, and talks about like how you can turn struggle into triumph and
Yeah.
all of these things. But I have another story which is kind of interesting. When I entered to be that Reebok One athlete, I didn't win, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was so convinced that I was going to win. My ego was screaming. I'm like, oh, I got this in the bag. And I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. And it was the best thing. I wouldn't be here with you having this conversation if I did win.
Yeah.
You know, I went home hungry and hurt.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes hurt is a gift, and that's why I always tell you, I'm like, I'm so grateful for the hard times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you also have to be a certain person to be able to handle it that way, because it would have been very easy to be like, it didn't work, I failed, I'm done with this, you know, and turn your back on it. Or life is over after getting divorced at 28. You know, like you have to have that ability to reframe your perspective on how you're going to approach the next thing with what just happened behind you, and use it to your advantage, not to hold you back, you know?
Right, 1000%. Because that's what I kid you not, when I first got divorced, in my mind, I was like, I'm damaged goods. Like, who's going to want to date me? Like, I took that kind of like persona for, like I said, for like a month or two, where I was like in a lot of pain, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like, I don't even want to tell people I'm divorced. Like, people ask, like, oh yeah, how's everything going? How's the wife or whatever? Because yeah, we weren't married that long. It was a year and a half, and so people are still asking, like, oh, how's married life? And I'm like, oh, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I know. So
tough conversation to
have.
Tough
conversation to have. But again, one of those things where like so many of my friends and family were like, well, we kind of, and it wasn't like, again, it wasn't like she was a bad person or anything, but there was never sparks.
Yeah.
Like it was like she was the cute girl next door, literally next door to where I lived. She was an All-American softball player. I played college baseball. She was my little sister's softball coach. I was coaching baseball at the time at a different high school. And I was like, oh, cool. Like everything makes sense. And like I said, it's so funny because I was hesitant to even like ask her out because I knew she would never give me a reason to break up with her.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like almost too secure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in hindsight, like, there was just no excitement.
Yeah.
Is what it was. Like she was, you know, pretty girl. She was great family, like, you know, whatever. But I never like lit up when I saw her phone, like when she would text me or she'd bring me lunch at work, and I was like, oh, sweet, thanks, like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And like I was never like not grateful for any of that stuff, but at the same time, like I was never like, oh God, she is it. Like I cannot wait to put a ring on her finger.
Man.
Yeah, but like and my family saw that. And like at our wedding, I ended up dancing with like my grandma more than I danced with her. Like my Colombian family just is a good time. And as I'm sure you know, like being around Brazilians.
Oh yeah.
Like
Love
that culture. Oh yeah. And they're so welcoming and like, eat some more, drink some more, let's go dance. You hear the song. Like it's such a good culture. And she, again, just comes from like a very, you know, conservative, good family. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, I don't think any of her family was dancing.
Yeah.
It was all like Colombians on the dance floor and like my friends. So, you know, I look back at it, luckily, you know, it's all about mindset, as we've kind of stated already. Like, I look back at it as like a very fun family reunion. That's what my wedding was.
Yeah.
But I mean, for whatever reason, and I'm very blessed to have never taken like a victim mentality. Because like you said, you could like fail at something and be like, well, just wasn't meant for me. Like, and that's not necessarily a victim mentality, but that's a mentality of like settling.
Or when the going gets tough, that you quit.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, that's not it.
That's not it. And that's also, you know, especially with you having a kid now, like that's not what I want my kid to be. Like, I don't want them to see like, oh man, yeah, my mom tried really hard and she didn't make it. And now she's an accountant or something, you know, something like that. But
it's so interesting being a mom because you have to be, any parent, right? You have to watch and be so mindful of what you're doing because like struggling is a good thing. And it starts now. That when you're struggling, or when I say struggling, if my kid's like reaching for something, he looks at me like, you're going to get it? And I don't. I mean, that takes so much because of course you want to help and be like, here.
Oh, here, little buddy.
But what are you teaching them that like, you know, you give up if something's hard? Like it all starts right now. And like, it's so wild.
Yeah.
Everything from trying to fill as much time with entertainment and stimulus. Like that's not a good thing either. You feel like you want to be needed as a parent, that you were needed in this scenario, but maybe just letting your kid space out and figure out what he wants to do with himself is setting him up for success in the future. It's such a wild experience because you have to overanalyze everything. Because
and nobody has the right answer.
No one has the right answer, which is also a blessing when you become a mum because I grew up with a lot of resentment towards my parents. And as soon as I had a kid, I like remember having that first conversation, like, I'm so sorry. You were just me.
That's
you know,
hilarious.
Like, you were just me. You had no idea what you were doing. The same way I have no idea what I'm doing. And I hope that I'm doing the the best I can with what I've got. And you were doing the same thing. So I'm so sorry for blaming you for this, and this.
Yeah.
It's such a wild experience.
That is nuts because, like, again, I don't have kids, but I've had that talk with my mom before.
Yeah.
And especially because I'm very open with my story, and I've shared it on a couple episodes here on the podcast, like, because I was homeless as a child, and my dad passed away in my arms when I was 21. Like, I did CPR on him and stuff, and so I'm very open about that. And especially when I talk about my childhood in California and being in this Christian homeless shelter called the Door of Hope, like, I'll tell that story, and my mom would be like, God, I wish you didn't tell that. Like, it's still hard for her. So like, it's a level of embarrassment. And I'm like, Mom, you tried the best you could. You were a kid going through it too. Like, I couldn't imagine. I want to say she had my older brother when she was maybe 18, 19, 20, right around there. And my mom, very, very sharp. Like, when we play, or not play, but like if she's watching Jeopardy, she kills it. Or like Wheel of Fortune. Like, she's just like she's so smart and very book smart. But she didn't go to college. Like, this was in the 80s. So she married kids, mom. Like, that was her life. And I keep telling her, I'm like, by the time she was 25, 26, she had 4 kids already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild. And I'm like, I was still trying to find a job at that age. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I tell my mom, I'm like, I am so thankful for how you raised me. And I know because she obviously doesn't like all that, but I'm like, thank God. Like, thank God for the childhood that I had.
Yeah.
And because it could have been worse.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been, because I never for a second doubted that at least my parents love me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like,
Oh, man,
I might be hungry going to bed, but I know that my dad
Yeah.
loves me. I know that my mom loves me, and they would both do whatever they can for me. And a lot of people don't have that, but they might have a new car in the driveway. They might have a beautiful house, all the toys, the iPad. But man, like, there's nothing replaces like the example or the protection that a parent can provide.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So like, I'm so like I said, my mom hates when I tell those stories, but I'm like, Mom, you were doing the best you could.
Oh yeah, and she did an incredible job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that, I'm sorry about your dad and stuff, but do you think that experience helped you become the man that you are today? You said it can always be worse.
Absolutely.
Now what you've witnessed, what you've gone through, I've, for some reason, not sure why, I don't know if I'll ever know why, have also witnessed a lot of death.
Yeah.
A lot of people trying to bring someone back on a mountain, doing CPR, she dies in my arms.
Yeah.
Watch my best friend pass away, I was there on her last breath. Like, I think having that experience and being exposed to death in that way can only help us in a beautiful way as well. Of like, life is fucking fickle.
I agree.
You are not guaranteed tomorrow. And so don't fear death, be grateful. This is what this whole book is about, by the way. The obstacle is the way.
I'm gonna have to get the name of it when you leave.
Memento Mori, right? Like, we don't fear death. I'm a huge stoic at heart, like in a past life, that we are all gonna die. It's the only thing that's absolutely guaranteed for every single person walking the earth. When people fear death, they fear living. Whereas if you don't fear death, you live. Like,
you live a limitless life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, live it to the fullest.
I think that's a gift. Absolutely.
Yeah, 1000%. And first of all, sorry that you've experienced all that as well.
In a way, I'm not sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've said that to Brad because Brad Womack, being the gentleman that he is, say, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry you went through that." I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm not as much as like I wish I could go golf with my dad right now. Like, I love my dad dearly. He was such a good man. I have his name tattooed on my arm, and I'm so like into my Colombian heritage, and like, my dad was, in my mind, and don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm very set in my faith, but my dad was like royalty. Like, he had like pure, like, just beautiful blood running through his veins, and it comes from my grandma, who was the same way. She we're coming up on a year that she passed away at 97. Wild ride. But I always say, like, man, yes, sure, I wish my dad was here, but I wish my dad was here with the man I am today, because I wouldn't be the man I am today if he didn't pass away when I was 21. Because I was such a kid at 21. And who knows when that would have changed. But when he passed away, again, my family was never financially set. So I had to start doing more. I couldn't be a college baseball player
Out
anymore.
of all of your brothers, who's the oldest?
I'm like 4th.
Okay.
I have 2 older sisters, an older brother, and an older half brother.
Okay.
And then a younger brother and a younger sister.
And you just felt, I got to step up?
Yeah, because I knew from the moment it happened that I was there with my dad that day for a reason. Yeah, because as much as I love my siblings and I think they're amazing people, Other than me and because my little sister was there too. She wasn't like in the room with us, but unfortunately, I did have to have her talk to 911 while I was doing
Mm-hmm.
CPR, which I hate. That's the only part of like that. That's the only part of that I wish would have been different is that she
Did
wasn't
it
there.
impact her?
She's so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so strong. So yes, it did. It was like 2 days before her 13th birthday. We had to cancel our birthday party because it was on a Friday that he passed away. Um, but had it been any of my other siblings there, and like again, I love them to death, but the way my family is with our addictive personalities, if it was any of my older siblings, I think they might have OD'd by now.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
it's tough. And again,
Mm-hmm.
who my dad was and what he meant to the family, like at his service, it was standing room only. There were so many people that I'd never met, I didn't know. Like my dad was just the life of the party. Everyone,
Mm-hmm.
I always jokingly say that I mean, half jokingly, I'm the favorite son of the favorite son. Like, because my
Mm-hmm.
dad was the man. Everybody loved him. He was so like classy. And even though we were like, again, very strapped financially, my dad always looked good, always smelled
Mm-hmm.
good,
Mm-hmm.
presented himself in a way that you would respect him.
Yeah.
And just an amazing guy. And, but if I didn't have to step up and be not the provider because my mom was still the provider financially for
Mm-hmm.
the family, but I had to be the male presence. My older brother, again, great dude, I love him, but he rushed off to like within a month. I think he even moved his wedding up, like within a month, like married and moved out to the hills and
Mm-hmm.
disappeared for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Like we legit didn't talk for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then when I got married is when he started coming back into the picture because I wanted him to come to my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he's very much like come back around and has been a big part of the family. But for a long time there, like it
Just
was
escape,
me.
avoid it,
Yeah,
avoid, escape. Yeah.
yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
has such
That
a
was
different
him.
way of dealing with death, right? It's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if it's someone that's close to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I took on a different role, and 1000%, it's shaped me into who I am today. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I wish my dad was here, but I wish he was here to see who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Not who I would have been if he stayed around, because who
Right.
knows?
Right.
You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Not a game I like to play of like what would have
What would have
been.
happened?
Yeah,
Totally. Totally.
because everything happens for a reason.
For sure. A
Yeah.
huge believer in that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it helps you appreciate life a lot more.
Yeah.
I think about that too. Of like for a couple years afterwards, it was really hard to be like, we put everything in a trust. I was so worried that someone was going to die, because I was like, wait, it's really easy to die.
Yeah.
Like I think we walk around thinking that
Yeah.
we're like invincible or something, but it's actually really easy to die, which
Yeah.
is a good thing to know.
Good thing to know, but
In
like
a
also a
way.
good thing to not necessarily be afraid of.
No, totally not.
Yeah.
Not live like in fear at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have conversations with the clients, with friends, which are, they can't even talk about death. They can't even imagine life without someone in it, or, and that I think is a really scary place to be as well, because you don't appreciate the time as much as you would if you realize that this isn't a forever thing.
Yeah.
I have this one saying, maybe someone else has said it, I don't know, but we put it on posters and stuff, which is remember to live before you die.
Amen.
Because I sat on my best friend's deathbed and I got to listen to the conversations at such a young age, saying like, I wish I did this, I wish I did that,
How old is she?
32.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 5 years younger than I am now.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, that
Colon
was
cancer, like, it makes no sense
Whoa.
in a woman. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was hands down, the biggest lesson from my dad passing is we don't have a lot of time here.
Yeah.
Like, live it up. I had this conversation with this girl that I used to date, and it came down to like moving. And I was like, we're wasting so much time together. And she had never, almost to a detriment, she had never lost anybody close to her. And don't get me wrong, like, that's an awful thing to go through, but it's such a shaping thing to go through. And so I kept, and she knew the scenario. I was very, I would go very in depth with like what happened with my dad, and I would tell her, I was like, again, you don't, like, this time that we have is very precious. Like, and I would hate when we'd even have arguments. I'm like, you want to be angry right now, and I was like, you don't understand. Like, I could get hit by a car tomorrow. Literally, something like a airplane part could fall from the sky because like random shit like that happens. Yeah. And you're always like, man, imagine being that one guy that got hit by the falling airplane part, but that stuff happens.
Yeah.
So I would always use that as an example. And again, I think people, like you said, that haven't necessarily gone through those kind of experiences don't understand like just how precious it is to really live.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you fear death, you're gonna be afraid to die or afraid to live.
For sure. For sure.
You're gonna be like, maybe I don't want to go surfing in South Africa because I could die.
Exactly.
You could die getting hit by a bus
Right.
in the middle of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
And what's more epic?
Right.
Dying
right,
on a
right.
wave in South Africa or getting hit by a
Yeah.
drunk driver?
I definitely adopted that mentality and took it to the absolute extreme. Now I have a child. I definitely don't feel like this anymore. But before I had a baby, I have lived so much that if I died tomorrow, I'm not bummed out about it.
Yeah.
I'm fucking stoked.
I did a lot.
That's like my gauge of like, where am I at right now? Like, if I was to die tomorrow, would I be cool? Or am I limiting myself somewhere in some capacity?
Yeah.
Now, of course, totally different situation because it's not about me anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I absolutely was not a fit, which maybe was a bit of not a great thing either.
Little
I look
reckless.
back at what I did, dude. So, do you know Aaron Alexander?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Vincent. Matt Vincent had this project with Indian Motorcycles to launch one of their new bikes. It was called the Epic Pursuit. And it's this gigantic motorcycle, right? And he's like, hey, we're doing this road trip, and we're going to ride 1,000 miles across the Pacific Northwest. Do you want to come? I'm like, well, I don't have a driver's license. I don't drive motorcycles. He goes, well, but I'm like, actually, I'm going to get it this weekend. And in hindsight, I literally went full send, and we drove torrential downpour every day. We passed snow. Like, if it wasn't being filmed for production, you don't ride. Like, it's so dangerous. And I look back and I'm like, that might have been like the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the wisest thing. But what a hell of a ride, man. Thank
What a
God.
story.
Yeah, what a story.
Yeah.
Like, I do these things because they're great stories.
Right.
But it was one of those things I do look back. I was like, maybe that one was a little.
Maybe that one.
That was a bit
That
dumb.
one was dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't regret it, but that one was really dumb.
Yeah,
Like,
wouldn't do it with a kid.
Anything could have happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents too, like I told them, I can't believe they are so cool with letting us roll. Like my brother is very extreme as well. And that's got to be a lot on their central nervous system, you know?
Right. Yeah, a lot of stress for the parents.
Because they're always like, yeah, we love you, we support you, what do you want to do? Like, fuck.
Yeah, I just can't watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt when my mom watched me fight.
Oh,
I'm like, that must have been so awful for her. Like, imagine 20 years from now, Brixton decides to do MMA or Muay Thai.
I just want to jump in the ring.
Right,
you know?
yeah, I can listen to the video and just hear the trembling in my mom's voice as she's yelling.
Yeah.
Because that's, of course, the voice I can hear in the crowd is my mom. And I'm like, that poor woman, like the things I've put her through with, like, not only that, but like my own injuries and stuff in the past of just being like a wild child.
Yeah.
But I use this example, and I've had a couple of artists on the show, but I've always like thought this because like a good piece of art, like the contrast, like the darker your darks can be, the brighter your brights can be. And so more like the amount of shit that you've gone through and the heartbreak and the hurt that you've seen or experienced really opens up your capacity to help people because you know what it's like. You know what it's like to struggle. You know what it's like to hurt. And so you can see them or meet them on that level. And there's a deeper level of understanding at that point. And I've talked about this before on the show, but I feel like that's why I always resonate really well with fighters because most of them come from pretty tough places. And it's like, okay, like the hurt in me sees the hurt in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. People say like the light in me sees the light in you, like in yoga.
No.
It's like, no.
Our demons speak.
Our demons speak. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, sometimes that's a good thing because they'll tell you who to stay away from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's also something that's really interesting too. You know, as I look back and reflect on my life as a younger kid, I was so angry at the world. I didn't have an outlet. I didn't have fitness in my life, right? Of this place to channel, just like fighters.
You didn't grow any like playing a like traditional sport or anything?
I was so good at I danced seriously when I was younger. I was into horse riding. I was not in a like rich horse riding way. Like I used to ride stunt horses, like so extreme. I was so good, but I just became a dick. And like I was too cool for dance, too cool for doing anything other than just being a really mean rebel. Like I was so angry, so horrible. And I now know I was so scared, right? And that was my armor of like, I'm going to protect myself. If I'm the scariest person in the room and around the scariest people I could possibly be with, no one can hurt me, right? No one can see me. No one can get through.
No one can see how scared you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have that. And I think now I look at it and it's like, okay, I remember being this angry, mean person that people feared. The feeling internally that I had to live with every single day is something that I never want to have again. So when I hear you introduce me, it's like, I remember the first time we met. You're just so like cool and so nice. Like that's the impression. That is such a life transformation for me. And now it's like my ultimate goal for the rest of my life is to be able to sleep, have far more less anxiety because I'm just showing up as who I'm am. I don't have to
Yeah.
pretend to be anyone other than who I am and follow my heart and whatever feels good.
Yeah.
And I know it feels a lot better to be a nice person and show up in a good way than it
Yeah.
does to be this person that's so angry and so scary, you know?
Mhm.
So it is interesting, but fitness is a huge part of that, you know, of having the outlet to channel those demons into this space. They're always going to be there, and I'm okay with that. I've learned to love these parts of myself, and they can help me go do an Ironman and like suffer and be okay with being in a very uncomfortable place for a very, very long time. I fucking love that about myself now, but in hindsight, that was like, oh,
Yeah.
so much shame around it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I feel like we have so much in common, which is weird because like we've never like
I
talked
know,
about
this is
things
great.
directly, but like I feel like I've wasted so much time pretending to be somebody else.
Oh yeah.
And again, because I was scared. I always tried to pretend to be popular and pretend to be like all these things, like prepared to or pretend to look like I have money. I was telling Brad on the last episode that my school shopping for my senior year of high school was me walking into the mall with big shopping bags full of empty shoe boxes, and I'd go to like Hollister or PacSun, and I'd just steal clothes. I'd throw a couple pairs of jeans, a pair of shoes, like a bunch of shirts in there, and that was because I wanted to appear like a well put together
Yeah.
kid,
Yeah.
because I was so afraid of people seeing me for what I really
Yeah.
was, and even into my marriage, to be honest with you, like I said, I gave up a lot of who I was, and I have always felt like I was playing a role that was written for somebody else. Like that wasn't the character I was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like,
How exhausting, right?
oh my, that's probably why I was so fat.
I
To be
think
honest
about
with
that
you.
all the time, and I think, you know, I have given a couple of keynote speeches, and I have had the absolute blessing of looking around, and I always love to like base my talking points off of who's at this event, who am I speaking for, right? And I get in this room where I'm like talking next to Bradley, Ed Milet, frickin' Sean Whalen, all these incredible, I'm the only female there, and I'm like, what is it? What is it that they have that others don't, right? Like, what is this self-actualization how do you get to this level where you are absolutely limitless to be able to do whatever you want? What does success mean to these people? And I know them. Like, I'm great friends with some of them on a personal level, and I get to see who they are to the front of the world, and I get to see who they are behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they're the same person.
Same person.
And I had this epiphany. I'm like, oh, that's what success is. When you remove all the masks and you take all the masks off and you are just authentic. Like you are
unapologetically,
unapologetically
authentically
you. Exactly.
you. Yeah, for sure. Those are
yeah.
beautiful things to see.
Yeah, and that is it. That's the secret, right? It sounds like, sounds so easy, but it is, because majority of people are striving so hard to be someone that they're not, because they think that the world wants them to show up in that way when they don't, you know? It's like this massive illusion.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the movie Space Jam?
No, I have, but I don't remember it well enough.
Yeah, the original with
remember
Michael
the Space
Jordan.
Jam.
Yeah, yeah, the soundtrack. Who doesn't remember that?
Yeah, this is true.
But they're losing at halftime or whatever, and Michael Jordan fills up water bottles and writes Michael's secret stuff on the bottle, but it's just water.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Like, it's like Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Like when he reads like the scroll that's supposed to have the secret that makes him the ninja warrior. It's like it's just a mirror.
Totally.
It's because the secret sauce is there all along, and we're trying so hard to find it in other things that we don't look into like what makes me different and how can I grow that?
Yep.
Because that's what people want.
Yeah, I'm in a really exciting place in my career right now where I started a new business in January, which is to help fitness professionals go online and go into the online space, because that's what I've done for the last decade, right? And that's it. Like I've done a lot of research. I look around who's successful in this space, who is not. And the people that are successful are just authentic. They're vulnerably authentic, because no one can be them. And it's the number one asked question. And we have something called the Digital Online Fitness Academy. The women come in like, what's the secret? What do I need to be posting? What content do I need to create? It's like, no. Yes, there is a sense that we're creating content.
There's an algorithm.
To document you. Like no one else can be you. Like show up in your full self, like all of you, not just with a full face of makeup, looking perfect and doing all these great things, but like the realness of who you are as a human being. And that's, to me, what stands out for people that are online and super successful.
Yeah, I agree. I have one of my best friends. He played in the major leagues for like 10 years. I actually just hung out with him this weekend. But I ask him about like people that I watched on TV, and I'm like, oh, how's so and so? Like, is he a cool guy? He's like, yeah, he's exactly who he is on TV, or he's exactly who you'd want him to be. And those kind of stories, I'm like, oh, cool. That's cool
Yeah,
that that guy
yeah,
is genuinely who he is,
yeah.
for good, bad, or worse, whatever. Like, be genuine. I like. There's so many people walking around with masks on. Yeah, and not even COVID masks anymore, but like
Right,
just like
right,
regular masks.
right.
Like, be you, be
Yeah,
authentic. Like, there was a really funny. I'm showing my age, but Limp Bizkit in like
sick.
the late '90s. Yeah, their I believe it was their first album called $3 Bill Y'all. They had a song called Counterfeit, and it was basically about like people walking around with like a mask on and like
Yeah,
being counterfeit and trying to pretend to, like, you haven't figured yourself out. Like, how are you trying to be someone else?
yeah,
But it's so true. Like, when you find those like genuine personalities, and those are the successful
yeah,
people. They're just being themselves on in their final form, or their
for
fullest
sure,
form.
for
You know what I
sure.
mean? And it's awesome. Those are the kind of people I want to hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can tell right away, right? And I do think that I used to be like, man, why can't you just be yourself? And almost like judgmental a little bit.
Hmm.
And now I just have so much empathy. I'm like, how exhausting is that? Like, you're someone different at work, you're someone different at home, you're someone different to this person. What is the conversation in your mind? There must be so much happening there. You know,
Yeah.
like I have a soft spot. I like want to help these people like fall in
Yeah.
love with themselves because then they
Be
can
in love
show
with
up
yourself. Yeah.
as who you are and
Yeah.
accept all the parts of you, the good
Yeah.
and the bad, you know?
Yeah. Um, again, I've told this story before, but it's like when you get on an airplane, when they're talking about like the oxygen masks, they're like, secure your mask before you help the person next to you.
They say that with a child.
Yeah.
But sorry, as a mom, there's no fucking
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
like,
no fucking way I'm
there's no
not.
way,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
then my husband's like, what do you mean? So if you suffocate, who's going to take care of your child? I'm like, good point. All right. Maybe I
see
should
what you're
put it
saying.
out. And maybe I should put it on myself first, but no.
But hear me out. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's so wild
Yeah.
to see people like just going through the motions, or like not being genuinely themselves.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Not for me.
Not for
Yeah.
me either.
Yeah.
Not for me either. But you know.
But there was a time.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
a time. I
Yeah.
wore so many different masks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, especially in high school. Like, again, we talked about like what a tough age.
Oh, my gosh.
So many people are trying to figure it
Yeah.
out, and especially if you have like a tough time at home, like what the torment that you're mentally going through is rough. But I remember after I got divorced and I started this like self journey, this self exploration of like, who do I want to be? Who can I be? Doing like a lot of meditating, a lot of praying, and like just trying to like, what are my limits kind of thoughts. And I remember I had this female friend. We trained Muay Thai together, and she played college soccer. Like, she was a Division I athlete. But her husband like didn't like it. He like didn't like her doing Muay Thai. Like, he was saying it was like not feminine. He was a real stick in the mud. And I remember telling her, I was like, man, looking at you is like looking at a tiger in the zoo. I was like, you are capable of so much more than what you think you are, but you're staying behind the fence. Like, you're just
Yeah.
this dulled animal versus this like conquering presence. Because like, I truly believe that a lot of people have that within them. Maybe
yeah.
not everyone, but probably everyone.
Yeah.
Probably everyone has it within them to do something great. Why not try to find out what that is? It doesn't
Yeah.
all have to, like, you don't have to be, it's election day. You don't have to be president,
Right.
but you can still be great. You can be a great leader of the women in your neighborhood or
Totally.
your family or whatever.
Totally.
Like, you don't, like, following other people's rules
Yeah.
really sucks.
I think there's a lot to do with the reason why people don't. And I look at it now, there's so many different things. It's definitely fear, right? Fear of something. And not only do we fear failure, but I think so many people fear success.
Yeah.
Like, then what?
Yeah.
If you've now shown yourself in the world or your community or your friends or your family what you are capable of, does that scare you? Because now that means that you can do more.
Yeah.
You know, I think there is a massive part of that.
Oh, yeah.
But which is why I'm sure you see it all the time in fitness. When people get to this stage of success, they self-sabotage because it's like, oh, whoa. Like, maybe I've had this with women, like they get to hide when they feel invisible, whereas when they feel seen and they start to feel more confident, now more people are looking at them, or more people are asking them, and they're opening up. Like, that can be really scary for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that can be terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a really famous quote. The full quote is really beautiful, but like the first sentence is like pretty well known, and it's our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond all means. And again, the quote goes on to like be really, really powerful. But
Say
like
it again.
our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond all means.
Yeah.
Or something like loosely, that's
Yeah.
what it is. But and again, the full quote is really cool. But how true is that?
It's so true.
Yeah, like
So
on a
true.
low level, sure, you're scared of failure, you're scared of being embarrassed, you're scared of being laughed at. But that passes pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of being great is something that'll last for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like if you're great, like people expect you to be great for a lifetime.
Right.
Like how now what's next? Now what's next?
Mm-hmm.
How can you be more?
I just watched a Simone Biles documentary while I was training last night. It's the same thing. Like
Yeah. What's it
how
called?
Simone Biles,
Oh, Simone Biles.
Rise
Gotcha.
Up
Yeah, yeah.
on Netflix. It's the same thing. Like once you are the GOAT,
Yeah.
then what? The pressure's on.
Pressure's on.
You know?
How do you top what you just did?
Yeah. And when you've been the only competition is
Yeah,
you.
especially her. Yeah, yeah.
You know, like oh man, what a world to live in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I worked with, do you know who John Jones is?
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him for 4 camps, and people that really know MMA, like he is undeniably the GOAT. Like
Mm-hmm.
he is done it all and in a manner that you would want, like if you're watching a movie, you'd want like your champion to be that
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things, like people are asking him because he's 37 now, he's my age. And last maybe 5 years of his career have like slowed down, still being active, but not near as active as he was before. And it's one of those things that's like, all right, well, how do you want your legacy to be? Like, do you want to go out like this, or do you want to go out like that, or like, do you want to just go out now
Yeah.
on top of everything? And it's one of those things that's like, he's the same way. Like he just wants to keep pushing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I break the construct of a 37-year-old champion? Like most people don't expect someone in their later 30s or even going to their early 40s to be a champion. It's like, well, let's do that.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's see
and
what's possible.
great people have that mindset.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is scary. It is
Yeah.
because there is no end, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, let's balance out like what else is important in life other than trying to win against yourself and constantly do all these things. But yeah, I'm sure he has family now too. I'm sure things change after kids as well.
Yeah. He has a handful of daughters. He's that guy, all daughters.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so funny.
Probably what he needed, you know?
Such a big, scary man.
Yeah.
And like such a great guy.
I've seen the way he parents too. I'm like, that's my guy. He's on it.
Oh yeah. He's awesome. He wants his girls to be tough.
Yeah.
And like I said, what a good person to train them to be tough. Yeah. Gosh, what was I gonna say off the top of that? But yeah, it's one of those things like, you got to keep striving for more.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was in college, I was always fast. I was a catcher in baseball, which is typically like a bigger, slower guy. But one of my like separating factors from being a catcher was I was very athletic. So I was fast. Like if on days I wasn't catching, like I'd go play outfield, like or play shortstop. But when I got into college, it honestly I think it comes down to like the fear of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what greatness is like hard work.
Yeah.
And so like I would intentionally do our conditioning with my shin guards on, so I had an excuse to run slow.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I was like, man, like that, like especially at that time, like if you really want to make it, like you have to do what other people won't do, and that's anything in life. If you want to make it where people haven't been, you have to do what people haven't done. And it was one of those things. I was like, nah, I can keep my shin guards on and kind of like half-ass it.
Yep.
Yeah. Now especially working with fighters, I've developed this mindset of like, half-ass training will get your whole ass kicked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no doubt
I'm in
about
this
it.
really interesting season right now because anything I do, I go all in. I do not half-ass anything. But now that I have a kid, I'm very conflicted internally because I set this goal, right, in January to do the Ironman. The Ironman was in September. So I devoted my life and, of course, being a mum first, but meaning some of those training days are like 9 hours a day. So while my son is inside on a Sunday with my family, I'm in the frickin' gym.
Yeah.
Like, that's a mind game, right? I don't get that Sunday back now. And I am so aware of that. And so now that I've qualified for World Championships, which people train their whole life to try and get to this thing, I do it on my first Ironman. So I'm highly aware of what a privilege and the opportunity, and I'm so grateful. All of that is real, but also there's the duality of like, so I have to commit more Sundays, to this, and it's such a hard place to be because all I know is going 100%. And I'm sure I'd still do great if I gave 50%, but I just don't know how to work in that space. It's not me, and I'm either, I keep telling me, I used to be, before a baby, an all or nothing. Like, if I'm not going to show up and give everything I got, I'm not even going to try, right? I don't see the point. So black and white.
Yeah.
Then you have a kid and you're like, all right, something's better than nothing. I'm training today that I have to adopt that mindset. And there's so much gray in life which is so true. And it's a hard place to live in the other way. But that's why I think why I was able to do so great in so many things is because I go all in and work when no one else is working. I show up first, I leave last. You know, like that's who I am.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in the space of like, okay, so September has now become December. And I'm struggling. I'm struggling so hard. Like it's such an interesting place to be because I don't usually struggle with discipline. I don't usually, all of this is such a foreign territory for me. And I'm having to jump into this space like head on. It's such a bizarre place to be.
Just a deep dive.
Oh yeah, such a deep dive. Like why do you feel so much guilt? Why do you, like, I have to just keep going deeper and deeper into all these layers to understand like, all right, get your shit together. Look at what you have this opportunity to go to New Zealand. Like you are so out of touch with what this is for so many people and get back into that mentality of like, I get to do this.
You get to, not have to.
I get to do this. I chose to do this.
Such a like a switch in mindset of I get to do this versus I have to do this.
I actually chose to suffer like this. I signed myself and no one volunteered me. I did this, you know.
And when you signed up for that, you were excited about it.
Oh, so stoked.
Yeah.
So stoked. As
so
soon
stoked
as I
for
hit,
the work.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Like put me to work. Let me see who I am and let me see what I can do.
Yeah, one of the jiu-jitsu guys I train, he always wears a shirt. I think it's from one of the other fighters in the gym, but it says "the work makes me happy." And it's like, man, what a true statement. And it's like one of those things like, God, I want to say it's Walt Whitman, but it's probably not. But there's a quote that says physical exhaustion can be spiritually enlightening.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right? I'm nothing is better than that feeling of getting your ass kicked. Like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you know what a misogi is?
Mm-mm.
It's the same concept, but in the Japanese culture, they do these practices where they put themselves through something really hard. And I'm pretty sure the traditional misogi is like standing underneath a really powerful waterfall when it's cold and it like hurts. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It just hurts and it's so uncomfortable and they have to like chant some kind of something over and over and over again, right? The whole point is now like the Western way of us approaching what a misogi is setting something, a goal for yourself that seems impossible, and it would be impossible unless you put the work in to reach it.
Yeah.
And once you dedicate, commit to the goal and you do it, that feeling that you experience when you achieve the thing that you thought was impossible falls over and you get to put that in a cup and sip on that feeling for the rest of your life. It like falls over to who you become, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same concept. Like it absolutely is a spiritual experience. You get to see yourself as this person. You get to unlock so many things, and it's so much of that.
I love that you said unlock, because after my last Muay Thai fight, training for that was just so like grueling. And my first fight was in a tournament, and when we show up, there's like 400 fighters there. It's kind of like a shit show. I mean, it was well organized and everything, but the energy is like there's just so much. Everything's going on. You don't really have time to like think about what you're about to do. But my second fight was on a big promotion at a casino in Albuquerque. They were coming to town. And so there's like all these things lined up, and it's not a tournament. A tournament, you don't know who you're fighting until everyone weighs in, and then they randomly pair people.
Okay.
My second fight was like, all right, this is who you're fighting. And I had an opponent change like maybe 3 or 4 times, which was annoying. But you have a face, you have a name that you are specifically training for. And for me, it was way more anxiety. And like, to me, it meant so much more. And also my first fight was in Arizona. Second fight was hometown. Like I sold more tickets than anybody to that fight. And it was just one of those things, like the amount of like not only physical work, but like mental and spiritual work that I put going into it. Like I did so much like meditating, visualizing, praying. Like I'm like, if this is meant to happen, Lord, like win, lose or draw, I hope that it happens. Like, because at first I was like, yeah, I'll sign up. It's like, but for whatever reason, and in the back of my mind, I kept saying like, it's not going to happen. My opponent's not going to show up. The fight's going to get canceled. Something's not going to work out. But to get over that anxiety is when I started, like I said, visualizing and praying a lot. And I feel like after I won that fight, like I said, you used the word unlocked. I feel like just doors started opening. I'm like, Nick, you put faith in your plan, and you put faith in what you were supposed to be doing, and it's all fine and dandy to like sit there and hope. You can put hope in one hand and hard work in the other hand.
Totally.
It's not going to work out until you put both of them together.
Yeah.
And kind of like the whole premise behind the podcast, the name of the podcast, The Lion's Pit, the story of Benaiah, it's one of those things like you have to, not have to, but it is so fulfilling and like really, truly like my mission and what I like to do is set goals that'll fail without divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to put feet to pavement to make things happen. You can't just sit in a chair and wait all day and pray all day that something will happen. Like you have to make things happen. But if you don't set goals that are like people will laugh at, and that's what people say, right? Set goals that people will laugh at. Set goals that you're afraid of, that you're even afraid to tell people because they're so big. And it's like that's the kind of shit I want to pursue.
Yeah.
That things like this. Like I was like, I want to have a podcast. I was like, but people are gonna be like, why does Nick have a podcast? Because I'm not an influencer. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not a comedian. Like I'm just a guy. But it's like I'm a guy with a story, and I'm good at getting other people to tell their stories. So like, why not get my story out there to help people? Because I'm here to help people. And the whole reason I do what I do for a profession is to help people. And the whole premise behind this podcast is like, here's stories that like that will help you along your way. Because and I've said this before, but like at 15, 16 years old, if I would hear my story now, I'd be like, oh, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Totally. I can
Not
do
just
this
I'm
too,
a rage monster that's trying to look like a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, set goals that are destined to fail without everything you have.
Totally.
Yeah.
I always like to interchange goal and dream, because the dream is just me visualizing the goal, right? I see it so strong. And if we like rewind why we do what we do as I'm a fitness professional, you're a fitness professional. We're trying to help people. You're more of a pro athlete side maybe, but you also cater to the general population,
the general population,
right? To watch what someone can do, like having a gym and seeing members come in oversized t-shirts and baggy shirts with their self-esteem and their energy like so inward, so introverted, don't want to give anyone eye contact. You stay in the back of the gym, you don't want to be seen, you want to blend into the wall. A few months goes by, you're still showing up. Now we're picking up a heavier weight, now we're moving a little faster, now we're trying to look at what other people are doing. We've got this friendly competition. Oh, now we're wearing shorts. Oh, now we just got our hair done. Oh, wow, now we're staying after class. Like to watch someone come out of themselves from doing hard things consistently, operating and using, not hoping that something's going to change. You're putting the hard work with that hope. Everything comes together. You see it. Now, not only do they feel better in the gym, but I just got promoted because I put myself out there. I had the confidence to apply for the next step.
You see how it changes their life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And the same, that was how I began. And now that line is just, the bar is just constantly rising.
And you're setting a high bar, which is great.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, watch me jump over that bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember doing my first hard thing and having that feeling, just like you're saying, unlocking like this whole other level of myself.
Yeah.
Then you can't help but have that question in your mind of like, okay, well, I didn't think that I could do this and I did. What else can I do? And having the confidence and being totally okay if you don't, if you fail. Like failure is a great thing.
Oh, it's the greatest teacher.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I freaking love it. Like I want to be so scared. If I'm not, this isn't it for me. This is too safe.
Yeah.
You know, I want there to be.
I'm not here for safe.
No. It needs to be near death.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For real. Like that's just where I'm at, you know?
Yeah, and that's I'm big on quotes. But there's another one that says that the purpose of life is not to arrive at death's door safely.
It's so true.
Yeah, like I'm not here to like, all right, I made it to death. I'm 98 and I didn't lose a limb.
No.
Like no, like I want to push this physical being as hard as I can. And what's funny, we recently held, you're familiar with High Rocks. We recently held a mock High Rocks event at Onyx. We're like affiliated with them. And I've been doing Squattober. Have you ever heard of Squattober? Yeah, so squatting every day. I'm probably 10 to 15 pounds heavier right now than I want to be, but I feel strong as shit. But like towards the tail end of Squattober, we do this High Rocks workout, and I see these guys just dying, and I'm like, God, I want that.
Yeah.
God, I want a taste of that. So I was talking to Brad and a couple other people around the gym, and I was like, all right, there's a High Rocks in Vegas at the end of February, and then there's one in Houston in March. I'm like, that gives me time to like get my legs back, start running and doing that stuff. Because like I said, I feel really strong right now, but I couldn't run from here to the bathroom if I had to. I'd be winded. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. It gives me time to like train, but it's like you have to understand it's gonna be hard. Yeah. Like, but God, I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's like a great invitation to anyone that's listening, right? To like, next time you're going through something hard and you're not really seeing yourself in the light that you wish you would, do something hard, man. And it doesn't need to be an Ironman, doesn't need to be a High Rocks, doesn't need to be Squattober, right? Be hard for you. That hard is relative.
Get a gym membership.
Whatever it is.
Right.
Walk around the block, like whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But do something that you just doubt yourself a little bit.
Preach. I'm right there with you. Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, you see that person that comes to the gym that started off as a wallflower
Mm-hmm.
and now they're in the front of the class, or, they're showing up early. Like I said,
Yeah.
staying late. Now they're working out in just a sports bra and compression
Totally.
shorts. Yeah, it's like
Totally.
such a game changer to push yourself and be uncomfortable. Like
Mm-hmm.
get uncomfortable with being get comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because that's the only way to growth. Like uh, a harbor. This is God dang, I keep throwing out all these quotes.
Let's go. I
Yeah,
love
like
quotes.
a harbor is a great place for a ship to be, but that's not what it was built for. It's not built to be at
Yeah.
dock. Like it's meant to be out on the seas.
Totally.
Um, and I'm a big believer in that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. Like no good character is built in the good times.
Yeah, and I'm sure people ask you this. This gets asked to me often of like, how do you become confident? Because I was not a confident kid. I was the most insecure, self-conscious, having so many conversations in my mind about why I shouldn't be here. Like
Hmm.
just so self-critical. And now confidence is magnetic. I
Yeah.
think it's something that I do have, but I didn't just get it. It didn't happen automatically. It was born in the gym.
Yeah.
Like being able to pull heavier weight off the floor doesn't just mean that you're a stronger athlete. It makes you a stronger person. And the way that you view yourself and what you see up here dictates the way that you see the rest of the world, or what the future could be, or the vision or the dream or the goal, whatever that is. And it's just so interesting because if you want to find more confidence, if you want to be more comfortable in your own skin, show up to the gym, man, where it's so uncomfortable and you're so out of your element,
Yeah.
But it is. But I think it's like just push, because you see this theory tested so many times and it works.
Yeah.
With all different types of people.
Yeah.
From the overweight softball guy to who you are now.
Yeah, to running a triathlon.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, there are people that kind of like hide in the background, like of classes and stuff. But it's a hard place to hide in the gym. You find out who you really are in there, and that's it's such a good metaphor for life, of like pushing weight and the growth that comes through hard, like difficult things to do. That's what working out is. That is like literally muscle growth comes from moving weight. That is difficult. Like growth comes from difficult scenarios, and more than just physically, but spiritually, whatever, however you want to put it, professionally. And there's so much to be said. Like confidence for me, I was a big fake it till you make it guy when I was younger, and it was so funny because like I never intentionally was like arrogant or anything like that. But I remember my mom worked with the mother of another guy from a rival baseball team in like little league, like in mid school. And I think he went to their work one day, like dropped something off, whatever the case may be. My mom met him, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my son's, Nicholas Gomez. He plays for the Braves, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Oh, that guy. He just walks on the field like he owns the place, blah blah blah." And I was like, I did not know I gave off that energy, but I'm glad I do.
Yeah.
But it wasn't intentional. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to like make it like. And that's another thing that like it took me a little while to get over is like. Sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this, like your confidence can offend other people or make them insecure about who they are without even saying anything, just your aura and your presence.
Yeah.
And there's been times where like I've kind of felt bad about that. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't, but I should try to help them. I should try to inspire and motivate. Like I shouldn't just be like, I'm up here and you're down there, because by no means am I up anywhere, other than my own ass maybe. But but like it's such a like it came to me even when I was working with literal champions of in the UFC in Albuquerque. Like I came out here and it felt like getting kicked out of the nest, like, you know what I mean, of the gym I lived at in Albuquerque, because like I said, I very much loved it. And when I came out here, it took a while, but I just came to this realization, like, oh, I am a good coach. Like I'm not like pretending to be a good coach. I just am a good coach now. And it was through a lot of like lessons and being present and being available and listening to people and doing what I could. And then I just had a realization one day, like, no, I'm a good coach. Like I'm not just a guy, because I didn't graduate college. I went to college. I didn't graduate after my dad passed away. And so for a long time, that was like a very big insecurity for me, especially like I've worked with coaches that have every piece of paper you'd want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have enough credits to have gotten like an associate's degree, like a junior college degree. I'm like maybe 2 semesters away from having like a 4-year degree, but I never found a reason for me to go back to school. And, but it was a big insecurity for a long time of like, oh, I'm not classically educated, you know, but it's like through experience and through the scenic route that I took to get where I am, it's like, yeah, I am a good coach now.
Yeah.
And that's a very like cornerstone, like confidence builder for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. You deserve to be in the room.
Yes, and that, you know what,
You
it's
know?
funny you say that because there was times where I found myself in a lot of rooms where I'm like, what the hell am I doing in here? And then you just have to realize you're there for a reason. Like
For
you're in
sure.
that room for a reason. And
Yep.
if you weren't meant to be in that room, you wouldn't be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, finding yourself in the room and looking around and being like, why am I here is kind of like a kick in the nuts. You're like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Imposter syndrome again,
Imposter
which we
syndrome.
all have. It doesn't
Yeah.
ever go away.
As confident as you may be, yeah, there's times like, and I've it's funny because I always felt like even as a poor homeless child, I always felt like there's someone to make a movie about my life someday.
Maybe that's what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I mean, I remember sitting there as like a fucking like second grader. Like I'm like, I wonder who's gonna play me in movies. And I was like, maybe I'll just play myself because maybe I'll be like a movie star too. Because I thought I was
Yeah.
gonna be a professional athlete. I was like, I'm gonna play pro baseball, pro football, probably go to the Hall of Fame for both of them. And I was like, well, then who's gonna play me in the movie? I was like, well, I'll still be young enough that time I can play
I
myself in the
love these
movie.
conversations.
This
Yeah.
this is like
This
dead
is
ass
so
thoughts
real.
that I
I
was
love
having.
that. I
Yeah, it
love
was
that.
so funny because like, but what it comes down to is like I truly believe no matter what my circumstances were, and maybe this comes from my dad and my mom like instilling it in me because they never gave me a reason to doubt myself. My parents were the best when it came to supporting me with whatever they could. But I always felt like I was destined for great things.
Yeah.
And so it came down to like just accept that.
Yeah.
Don't feel like because you're poor, like I said, I almost felt like Aladdin. I was like, I'm the street rat. Like I don't deserve Jasmine, like because I'm the street rat. And it just came to one of those things. I was like, no, just man, be confident in who you are and
Yeah.
like give thanks for who you are.
Yeah.
And that's like being grateful for like what little I do have has been such a big lesson for me to learn.
Yeah.
Because it just made me so much happier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I'm a genuinely happy guy. It takes a lot to like stress me out.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice way to live.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese proverb that says that where you lack gratitude, you lack joy. And it's so true.
Oh yeah, I like
so,
that.
So true.
You said your dad's Chinese?
Yeah.
I did not know that. And
Yeah.
your mom?
My mom is Irish. My mom's got blonde hair and green eyes.
Where do you? So is your dad darker?
Yeah.
Okay,
My
I was
dad's
gonna say, where do you get your
dark.
skin tone from?
My mom is also like a very tanned Irish. She's Northern Ireland, so my mom is so dark when she gets in the sun.
Gotcha.
So she's not your typical like fair-skinned Irish woman, you know.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes. I was
Yeah.
like, why you have you?
Yeah.
I would have thought again. New Zealand kind of would make sense, like that
Yeah.
little more like indigenous look.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like I said, South Africa was what I was thinking for a while,
Yeah.
and I think more so the accent than anything.
Probably.
Yeah.
I get that, man. It hurts my soul. And then I went home to England last month when I went to Italy. I went to go see my nana, the 1090. And then I'm around English people, so my accent's so thick.
Yeah.
Now it's gone back to what it is, I guess,
Yeah.
now in this stage of life.
Yeah.
But while I was out there, I had a job filming in Portugal. I work with iFit, Nordic Track, and we film content. I've worked with them since 2017,
Oh,
where
wow.
all they've ever heard is this accent. I start filming with them after I've been home for a month, and I can't wait for these workouts to be released because I know for a fact that the response is going to be like, why is she putting on a fake accent?
Yeah,
You know,
why is
and
she sounding more
yeah,
English?
And it's not fake, that's just the real
Just
one.
gets
and this
thicker when
is
you're home.
Oh, so thick.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I had a boss, and maybe I'm sure it is like this in different parts of England. Like for us, it's still the same accent, but for you, you're like, oh, you must be from this part of England
Yeah.
because of your accent. I had a boss that was from Boston. Boston has a very distinct accent. But like around us, like he talked very normal, like no accent. But he'd always say, he's like, yeah, get a couple of glasses of wine in me, and then see. He's like, you'll hear my Boston accent come out. I was like, oh, that's funny.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. All right, so you have Worlds in New Zealand.
Yep, in December.
In December, wow.
Yeah. It's 5
awesome.
weeks. 5 weeks left of training.
How you feeling?
Good. I had a serious pep talks over the last couple months. A couple weeks, sorry. I took a month, not off, but I wasn't training 7 days a week, training 4 to 9 hours a day, right? I was
like
just
more like a general prep phase.
Yeah, like enjoying. I had already built the base, maintained my base, but I had missed strength training.
Yeah.
Strength training is a huge part of endurance, but with how many hours I was putting into the tread, running, cycling, and swimming, I chose to sacrifice, make a choice, interchangeable, one of those, which was strength training. So for the first time in like 10 years, for the last, September to October, I wasn't strength training.
Yeah.
You know, which is such a weird place for me to be.
Yeah.
And so I've been back in the game, and I've gained some more strength back, which I know is going to help. But now I'm like back in the game. Did a 4-hour ride on Sunday. Yeah, hit a nice zone 3 interval sprint last night. Today I'm going to go swim and run.
Where do you swim?
Where do I swim?
Yeah, where?
Lifetime.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The one on Break Lane because it has open water lake in the back as well. So I
Oh,
can do open water swimming as well.
very important.
Yeah, very
Nice. I
important.
love swimming. Like I said, I was
Yeah.
like, when I dabbled with doing a sprint triathlon, I never actually did because that's when I met my ex-wife was soon after. So obviously got distracted. Um, but swimming was my thing. I grew up, like I said, growing up in California, like I've always loved the ocean. I've always loved water, which is funny because New Mexico has no water.
Yeah.
But that was like one of my favorite things about living in this part of Texas. I was like, you can drive off any random side road and you're driving by a river stream
Yeah.
or a pond, or
Yeah.
I'm like, New Braunfels has 2 rivers that runs through it, and like I love that. My sister, the complex she lives in, has like a private access to the river.
Nice.
And it's so nice. I
Yeah.
took my dog out there to the water, and I don't have to like worry about a bunch of people. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I just love the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, where do you swim?
So this past weekend they had, do you know what the Otillo race is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I didn't know about it until I started getting into this world of endurance. It's a massive deal.
Okay.
Okay,
What's it called?
so Otillo,
Otillo.
Otillo.
Okay.
It's a run swim race. And there was one hosted in Austin. They do them all around the world.
Okay.
And so you work with a team and you swim in what you run and you run in what you swim. So you got one outfit, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you combined, it's like a really long distance, but you break it up. So they did one here where you like jump off a cliff, swim 800 meters, run 5 miles, get back into the water, and you're like island hopping, if you will.
Wow. Yeah.
And altogether you end up running, probably swimming like over 3,000 meters, running like 15 miles. Like it's a pretty
Yeah.
intense one. But next time they do it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Wow, that'd be
yeah,
wild.
it's really cool. And they do them everywhere, but they have one in Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's good to know because Brad brought something up because I think he's in his early 50s now, and God, I'd feel so bad if he's like 42 and I just said that.
He
But
looks great. Wow.
either way, he looks right. Either way, he looks great. He's got to be early 50s because we were talking about they have this like golden bachelor now that's like older people on the Bachelor. And I was like, dude, you look so much better than any of the dudes on that because I probably have like 55 or 50 plus.
Yeah.
I think he is 52. And I was like, did they reach out to you about that? He's like, no. He's like, they've reached out to me about other things, but they never reached out to me about that. And I was like, dude, you look so much better than those guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was saying that over the I don't know if it's over the last few years or whatever the case may be, but he has developed this thing where once a year he picks something really hard to do.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes with the Chinese proverb that you were saying of like pushing, like do something
yeah.
really hard. And it's like, man, that's a really, especially as I get older, it's like, that's a great goal. Like, all right, maybe next year it's High Rocks. Maybe
Yeah.
the next year after that it's Otillo.
Otillo.
Yeah.
I have to have something on the calendar.
Yeah.
I'm very disciplined anyway. I'll strength train, but to train with a purpose,
Yeah.
it's different, man.
Oh, very
It's
different.
so different.
And I need that because I got into so many bad habits over COVID.
Yeah.
That like I still like can't like still keep with me that I'm like, oh, why am I still not doing my cardio at the end of the workout, or why am I taking 2 days off instead of 1 day off?
Yeah.
Like just bad habits that develop. Because like COVID was like, all right, what do I do all day? I was just sitting around smoking weed.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't even like I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything. I was like, because again, maybe I'll have a drink, which was
Yeah.
like such not who I am.
Yeah.
But over COVID, it's like, what the hell else do I have to do? It was like
Exactly.
summer break for adults.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, and fortunately for me, I didn't lose anybody like close to me during COVID. But a buddy of mine, every day we would meet up at the gym, we would train Muay Thai, and then we'd like order the shittiest food on DoorDash and watch Netflix at the gym.
Yeah.
And me and him we talk about it to this day of like, man, that was the best summer of my life. Because like, again, neither of us had like significant loss.
Yeah.
We're still getting little bit of pay from work because we're doing online training. And we were just meeting up every day and working
Yeah.
out and just hanging out. I was
Yeah.
like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
But like I said, I developed some bad habits. So it's like, it's one of those things like I need to train with a purpose. Like
Yeah.
set a goal.
Yeah.
Like I said, 2025 for me will be High Rocks and probably something else because High Rocks is pretty early in the year, whether I do the February or March one. But it's like, there'll probably be something later in the fall, especially maybe around my birthday, I'll find something around to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's such an awesome thing to do. Like set something either really exciting or really challenging. Like I still really want to go to Thailand and do like a fight camp in Thailand.
Cool.
It's like, cool, maybe go do that for like,
Yeah.
go out to Thailand for like 3 weeks, try to get a
I'm
fight.
a big believer in like a vision board and having something on the calendar, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, make it real.
Yeah,
Don't just
Yeah.
keep it in your head because things will fade away in your head.
for real.
Yeah, like don't,
If it's something you look at every day.
yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be laying on your deathbed with all the thoughts of things you
Yeah.
wanted to do or could have
Yeah.
done, the book you could have written or the workout you could have done. and they're all sitting there haunting you.
So true.
Like, don't be haunted by your dreams.
No.
Yeah.
Go chase them.
Chase them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chase your dreams. Don't be haunted by them because they will haunt you.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Because that's what I always tell people. I'm like, you'll regret not doing it more than doing it.
That's a big driver for me is I want to be able to live with no regret.
Yeah.
You know.
No regrets.
Yeah.
I dig it. All
Thank
right,
you so much,
Hannah
man.
Eden, I appreciate you coming on again. I've been a big fan of yours for a while and always love seeing you around the gym. And especially when you moved to Austin, I was like, oh, let's go.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. I mean, everybody already knows where you are on Instagram, but you want to give the people a handle to follow?
Yeah, Hannah Eden _fitness, HANNAHEDEN_fitness.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure absolutely getting to know you. It's been fun.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too. All right, everyone. Again, thanks for tuning in to the Lions Pit podcast. I'm Nick Gomez. This is Hannah Eden. Shout out to the fine people at LSKD for giving me the finest workout apparel. I appreciate y'all. Don't forget to tune in next time.